gone, and McClair does it again for Celtic. Well, it couldn't have been simpler or more effective.
And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running.
They are doing well, winkling the ball free to McStay. Here's Mo Johnston. It's there! Mo Johnston, the Celtic fans hero. 52 minutes of the first half gone, it's 2-0 to Celtic. It was brilliantly set up by this pass from Paul McStay. Johnston was one thought in his head, racing in and goal. The power beat him.
Half the world away, half the world away.
Rain with a delicate ball to Murdo McLeod. To Paul McStay. Finding Aiken. Now McGrain. Celtic in full cry now as McClair gets free on the right. There's Johnston. Absolutely magnificent. One of the goals of the season. Set up.
You know I'd stay, but I just can't stand it, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind.
From me. McGrain. Murdo McLeod. Barnes. No question about it, Celtic are certainly playing like champions. Mark Deacon testing Tom Wilson. Makes his way to the byline. Here's Murdo McLeod, now McStay. 4-0 to Celtic. Paul McStay thundering in goal number 4.
So what do you say? You can't give me the dream to demand anyway. Half the world away.
White to McStay. Someone trying to play Celtic offside. They failed. Here's Johnston. Murdo McLeod. McClair. 9 minutes into the second half. 5-0 to Celtic, and that was certainly with a tinge of good fortune.
Don't feel down.
Paul McStay. Well, Stuart, you need 2 bites. Now that must be a goal for Dundee. Sheer bedlam around the stadium. Well, you don't need to hear any more news than that. Dundee clearly has scored at Dens. And let's lift off near at Flush Street. Oh, what incredible scenes. Spears in the playoff. And there's the final whistle. Celtic have won by 5 goals to 0. Andy McGrain goes on to convey the news of the position at Dens Park. The Celtic supporters inside the field. But still no news at all from Dens to confirm the final whistle is gone, although surely now it's on their formality to hear that Celtic have won the league championship in the most dramatic fashion.
Good day, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You're listening to the Half the World Away Celtic podcast from Hail Hail Media, and you can listen to us on Spreaker. You're listening to the voice of Kevin O'Neill. I'm based in Mandurah, Western Australia. Across the other side of Oz, in Melbourne, Victoria, we have got Mr. Patrick Close. Are you there, Patrick?
G-Day, Kevin. G-Day.
G-Day, mate. G-Day.
Kevin, can we just ask you something before we introduce anyone else?
Yes.
You said you can listen to it on Spreaker. Well, they can only listen to it on Spreaker if they're actually listening to this right now. It's on Spreaker.
That's good.
Yeah. So there's no point telling people the obvious.
I was factually correct.
Yeah, you were factually correct. Yes, I'll give you that. Anyway,
That's all good. But thank you, Pat. How are you anyway, my old China plate?
yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. How was your trip up north, Kevin?
Yes,
You were up
it was
north
quite.
during the week.
I was up north for a week, northern Western Australia, the Pilbara region, full of iron ore and mining and all that kind of stuff. If anybody's familiar with it at all, so yes, I was doing a bit of work up there for the week, so quite long and tiring. But I had to dash home to be back in time for the show tonight, obviously.
Yeah, well, we were tracking you, Kevin. Remember on the
I
internet,
noticed that. I did notice that.
Flight
yes.
Now, let me just tell you something. We were tracking your flight. I say we. More I was, yeah. I was tracking your flight, and probably about halfway between Port Hedland and Perth, it dropped off the map. The plane just disappeared off the map. So,
were you worried?
I thought there was a little incident going on. I was checking, the Age and Herald Sun and these other newspapers to see.
You panicking? Big Kev O'Neill drops out the sky.
Nah, we'd replace you pretty easily. We just straight out and bring somebody else better in,
Exactly. It wouldn't be hard. Right, Pat, enough of this idle banter just now, because we have got somebody else waiting patiently back in Ecos, back closer to paradise. We have got Mr. Barrow Stowness, Boros Stowness. He's not been on for a little while. I'm glad that he's back on the show, Mr. Josh Gaffney. G'day, Josh.
G'day, hail everyone.
Oh, that was a few weeks ago. You did a very good day, but that was a closer to a good day. So I'm happy with that, Josh. Anyway, how have you been, Josh?
Yeah, I've been good. I've just been busy recently. I think it's a month ago I was last on this.
I think it was, yeah, a couple of shows ago at least, anyway. But it's great to have you back on, Josh.
I'll be missing, but back here to brighten up the show.
Well, we did honour Josh in the last one. We gave him the title of the show, so all to himself.
We did indeed. Yes, name was up in lights again, Josh. It was all good. Right. Anyway, what we're going to do tonight, folks. Obviously, we had a nice little intro that Pat put together for the show. Again, he's getting very good at doing all this kind of mixing in stuff, I think. And it was the when Celtic clinched the league, 1986. Today's the anniversary of that, when we beat St Mirren 5-0 to pip Heart of Midlothian to the league title on that very day, when they went down to Dundee. I think it'll hopefully bring back some pretty happy memories for those who listen to that there. We've actually had a little tweet in from Craig just as the intro was playing, actually, to say that he had goosebumps listening to the intro, lads. So good stuff. So well done, Pat, for putting that together at pretty short notice as well, I think, mate. But it was good to listen back to that audio, because I remember that from my memories of that. I was only at the time 14. I wasn't at the game, but I do remember we were visiting my cousins at Blair Hill in Coatbridge, Brendan and Aidan, God rest his soul, my little cousin Aidan. But yeah, it was. I remember we had to wait and see the highlights the next day and it was Scotsport and Jock Brown's commentary. It's hard to believe that he later on went to be involved at the club, actually, Jock Brown, because I used to hate the man. I hated his voice with a passion. But I can still picture it all in my head very vividly. I get great memories of it, and it was great to win the league in the manner we did, because we certainly pegged Hearts back, who had a great start to the league. What were your own memories of it, Pat?
Well, I had to. Sad to say, I was actually not at the game as well, because I was playing soccer. I was playing football at the time with All Saints Youth Club in Coatbridge. So one of your teams, Kev. I was down in Sykeside in Coatbridge. Very, very, very fond memories of my time at All Saints. So now, we were playing a tournament, and from what I recall, it was in Alloa. And we were on the way back, and I'm going to put a call out here to see if anybody knows this guy. One of my best friends and a fantastic player with the team was a guy called Peter Elliott from Glenboig. So I would doubt he listens to this sort of stuff. He is a Celtic diehard, but If
I know
anyone,
Peter well, actually, as well.
you do know Peter, there you go. So I
I
played
do
football with him.
indeed.
So I
Yep.
played football with him for 4 or 5 years, and he was as much a diehard as I was, and I can have vague memories of sitting in the back of a television van, because the guy who took us to the games was a television delivery guy or a repairman, whatever. So we'd be
Radio
sitting
Rentals.
I think it
Rentals
was.
or something like that, eh?
I think it was Radio Rentals. So we would basically be sitting in the back of this van sitting on top of tellies pretty much, which was really quite bizarre. But yeah, listening to it, I think from what I remember, on the way down from Alloa, and it was a 2-day tournament. And we're driving back when we win the league, and then we had to get back up for the next day of the tournament. And I was sure it was Tullibuddy Hearts with the team we were playing, if they still exist.
Bloody hell, Pat! You're talking more about this tourney you were in. We're talking about the St Mirren game here, for crying out loud.
We played really well in the tournament. No, we played really well because we got anyway. Oh no, just great, fantastic memories of it. I guess we were sitting. Again, from memory, it was on Scott Sport. It was on. So it had been on the Sunday.
It was.
And
Yes.
just waiting for the highlights to come on, and like I'll be honest, I know we talk about the little Petit Merde, but he was my absolute hero at the time, which
I
I'm
think he was
embarrassed.
for a lot of fans, to be honest, Pat, until he did what he did.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a shame really, because Brian McClare was playing at the same time, and he was an Airdrie boy, so went to the same school as me and played in the same school football team as my big brother. They win the Scottish Cup. I think the first St Margaret's team to win the Scottish Cup. So he played in the same and another guy played. Some people might remember a guy called Brian Martin, played for St Mirren and Falkirk, as well as one or two other teams. So they were all in the same team. And yeah, so Brian used to kind of come over to our house. They'd be going on a piss. My brother and Brian and Jerry O'Toole and these sort of guys from Airdrie. If anyone knows the O'Tooles, there's about 50 of them. So, and he should have been my hero, but I don't know what it was about Johnson that, yeah. But one memory I do have of it, and if anyone hasn't seen it, any younger people listening, look back on the goal from I think it was Johnson scored 2, didn't he? I can't remember now. But he scored this goal where it was pretty much play all the way from the back. Danny McGrain was involved
Danny
in it.
McGrain was involved at the start, yeah.
McClare crossed it, and Johnson
right down the right-hand side, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that not recently voted the best Celtic goal of all time or something like that? Did I see something like that in the past couple of weeks, maybe?
I would have thought that
Maybe I dreamt it.
Larson's chip might have been the goal of all time, but I'm not sure about that. But that's my... Well, that and the McStay goal. McStay scored from about 20 yards out. Again, from memory, it was a cutback from... Who cut it back? I can't remember now. Cut back from left winger. Archdeacon. Was it him?
Owen Archdeacon,
and then, just drilled it top corner. So, yeah, I mean, nobody really... I guess you kind of go and hope. I know a couple of guys in Melbourne that were at the game. And just when I've spoken to them about it, it must have been amazing there, because you kind of go there and hope. You probably didn't really expect to win it, because Hearts were a really good team then. To be fair to them, they were.
Well, they were. Yeah. I mean, they did. They were a fair bit ahead in the league. I can't remember offhand how far away they were, but we pegged them back. They started to get a bit shaky at the end, and yeah, at the end of it, they obviously we did what we had to do, which we have to do on so many occasions when it comes down to these last game of the season things. But we did manage to do what we had to do. We kept up our side of the bargain, and Dundee does this a massive favour. So no, it was fantastic. I suppose Josh, Pat and myself were just young whippersnappers, young teenagers at the time of that game. What age were you, Josh, when that game was getting played and we were hoisting the league trophy high?
I think I'd be about -4.
-4, Josh. What an age! A good age, mate. A good age. So you weren't even a twinkle in your father's eye at that stage.
No.
So I take it you've seen maybe little clips of it and stuff like that on YouTube or whatever, Josh. Though, have you maybe seen any of that? And you wonder what us older guys are talking about that particular game.
You know, I've read up upon it. You know, seen clips here and there, and obviously, you know, like the intro today.
Yeah.
You know, all we all know is that we're really up against the odds, and you know, last 10 minutes Albert Kidd came and basically gave us the title. And we had a fantastic performance at St Mirren that day as well.
That's right. No, you've done well from your -4. Nowhere even near the win at that stage. Memories of that game, Josh. So well done for contributing that there. Listen, folks. Sorry, Josh, what were you going to say there?
Well, at least I can explain it without going through my history of Sunday League Alloa football.
Hey.
Well said, Josh.
Those were my glory years, boy. Those were my glory years, okay? Settle down, will you?
Next show, Pat, you'll need to put some audio together of that Alloa Cup tourney or whatever it was for us. See if you can dig that out of YouTube. You'll get a prize if you can.
I'll need to call on Peter Elliott and the guys for that one, I think. And we Joe as well, and yeah, some cracking players, and yeah, a couple of guys for Glenn Boyd. Yeah, great days.
Great days indeed, mate. Okay, so folks, if you are listening in, all one or two of you, I know there's definitely two listening in because I've had a couple of tweets already from good old Craig, who'll maybe join us later on. If he doesn't join us, he'll maybe keep the tweets coming in. But we've also got, and I'm going to ask you, I guess, Jim Blythe, our good friend from the Celtic Graves Society as well. He's waiting patiently, listening to this drivel just now. But Jim, if you could call in a couple of minutes, if you hear this, because we've got another little bit of audio that Jim's kindly put together for us again for this particular show. I won't give away exactly what it is yet because I'll let Jim come on and introduce that. So yeah, Jim, if you want to call in, we'll get you on. But anybody else that's listening out there, if you want to join the chat or join the conversation, you can tweet us on @halftheworld88, or you can call in on Skype, and again that's the same. It's halftheworld88. Am I right, Pat? This time?
Yeah, well done.
That's
Ding.
the first time ever. First time ever, because it's always the same name, isn't it, Pat?
It is.
It's not Half the World Away or anything. Half the World Away is the name of the show. Everything else is Half the World.
Some swines already got that. We were a bit too late with the show name, Kev.
Oh, is that what it was? I thought it was too long.
Well, it was a little bit, but in fact, I don't remember Josh, the guy who suggested that. We did say we'd thank him and get him online and stuff like that too, for naming the show for us. But it was a winner at the time. But
that was Chris. That was the winner at the time.
That rings a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, he does have a surname, yeah.
He does, but I can't remember because I just remember saying it was Chris that got the name for the show. So yeah, maybe if Chris is listening in, he could maybe get back in touch with us, and we'll make sure we get you suitably rewarded somehow. We'll think about that. We'll give some little prize for it. I did say that at the time. It never happened, obviously. As per usual.
We don't have anything to give away.
Well, we don't have much of a budget on this show, of course. We don't really have much of a budget, but we can work on that at some point. Right, guys. I guess while we're waiting on Jim to get in touch with us,
Who's here, Kev?
Is Jim there? You there,
yep,
Jim?
I'm here, boys.
You can hear us
you hear
loud
me?
and clear. Oh yes, you're coming through loud and clear, Jim.
I'll tone it down then.
Oh no, that's perfectly clear. Perfectly clear. How have you been, Jim?
I've been very well. Title on the bag. Very happy with that.
Bag. Yep, can't argue.
No,
it's
so yeah, very well. Busy with various bits and pieces. A couple of things we're trying to move on. We had the Charlie Shaw ceremony, which was an interesting experience. Sort of semi-organising that from 3,000 miles away.
Yep.
But it went down a storm. Lads in the States had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
The family were over the moon, and that's the aim. And as I said before, I think more people are now aware of the name Charlie Shaw than previously were. So that's a success. So yeah, good couple of weeks, lads. Very good couple of weeks.
Excellent. And objective achieved then with the Charlie Shaw. If his name's a little bit better known now than it was previously, as you say, Jim.
Absolutely, and we've made some fantastic contacts too. It's the first, we've done a simple ceremony with Charlie Gorevin a couple of years ago, which was directly with Brian McIntyre, who I'd like to thank for everything he done. There'll be loads of people to thank for April the 6th commemoration, but Brian and Brendan Cahill, Charlie's great-grandson, were just fantastic. But as well as them, we've made some great connections with the lads in the States. We've in the pub afterwards in the States, sadly, not me obviously, because I don't do that sort of thing. The Shaw family were sat down in the parlour and chatting away to people, very Celtic supporters. And a Celtic supporter came up and introduced himself. They weren't familiar with the name. But Charlie Shaw, if Charlie Shaw was reckoned to be Celtic's statistically greatest ever goalkeeper, then Celtic's first great goalkeeper was a lad called Dan MacArthur. And this guy came up and introduced himself to the family, chatting away. He's like, oh yeah, my great-great-granddad just played for Celtic as well. Oh, brilliant. Who was that? It was Dan MacArthur's great-great-grandson.
What are the chances?
Exactly. And we are completely unaware of this, obviously, but it's another link, another contact, and a wee bit more colour put in the picture. So they were trading 75, 80-year-old photos. Dan's great-great-grandson pulled out this 90, 100-year-old cigarette card with a picture of him on it. So it's great. And, we obviously hadn't planned for anything like that. But that's the sort of spontaneous thing that quite often happens at the ceremonies. So absolutely great.
Sounds brilliant, Jim, actually. But for something like that to happen as well, when you've made another link in another chain, I suppose, to maybe somebody else that could find out a bit more about as well. But for that to actually happen on the day, quite an incredible coincidence, I suppose, that you've got somebody else there now as well to do a bit of research on.
Totally, and it's great for it's great for the family. First and foremost, it's great for the family, but I think secondly, it's great for Celtic because there are now the Shaw family, who obviously had the link with Celtic. They see not just what Celtic meant in the 1920s or 30s or 40s. They see what Celtic means in 2013 to so many people. And so we've got that from the Shaw family. The boys and girls in New York have been able to showcase what they do, which I think is very, very important that people remember. Not just guys in the States, but guys like you too, who keep Celtic flag flying in the far-flung reaches of the world. And locally, it was covered by what was the name of it? The Fort Lee Gazette? Sorry, okay. I've forgotten the exact name of it. But the local press covered it. So, so the citizens, the good citizens of Fort Lee, would have been opening their newspapers to loads of pictures of Celtic. Probably more pictures of Celtic in the Fort Lee Gazette that day than there were in the Evening Times for us winning the league. So.
It didn't quite make the New York Times, did it, Jim?
I would hope it would. Would it not be front page? Although the New York Times don't tend to do photos, do they? They just tend to have sort of rambling 5,000 word articles.
That's got to be one of the thickest newspapers I have ever seen in my life, actually, and the one and only time I was ever across the pond, I guess. But
my wife was in the States with work, and she brought one back. She was in Chicago, and she had to change it in New York. And she brought me back a New York Times, purely because I'm interested in history, and I was interested in their take on the death of our former Prime Minister, which was an interesting read, a very interesting read. So I've kept that as a historical artefact.
Yes, we might come on to that another time, actually. We won't speak too much of her at this stage, but yes. I'm sure she had to check that newspaper in his luggage as well, because it's fairly substantial in size, I think. Maybe need to pay excess on it. Yep. Right, anyway, Jim, thanks a million for joining us, and I believe you're going to hang on for a bit with us as well. We've got a nice little audio clip that, again, you kindly put together for us. We'll come on to that soon, but if you're happy to hang about just now and join the chat, what I'd like to do is again, I hate when we do get these circumstances when we've played a game and we've lost a game or we've had a poor performance. But I want to just touch briefly, folks, and get your thoughts on last week's result against Motherwell. Without getting into too much decomposing the performance and things like that again, but let's get your thoughts on it anyway. Josh, I'll come to you first if that's okay. What did you think of the Celtic performance, the result, and any other thoughts on it?
I thought we kind of started off well. Vojic, for example, he was having a good game. I know the last time that he started the game, it was against Motherwell as well. He didn't actually have a very good game, but he was performing well. It was a little bit edgy, but we got the first goal through Hooper near the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. But then second half, who was it that scored first for Motherwell again?
Oyama, the finish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was at the very end of the first half.
So, pretty much the last kick of the ball, I think, the first half.
And then basically, second half came out and Motherwell put a bit of pressure on us, and our defence just kept on making mistakes, and we were 3-1 down. Couldn't be able to come back for that.
Yeah.
Motherwell had a good game. We had a bit of a poor second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair summary, Josh. I mean, Pat, did you catch the game at all? What were your own thoughts on it?
Yeah, I guess pretty much the same as everyone else. It was an okay first half. I thought we were, certainly on top. I didn't think we were spectacular. I guess being a bit of a Tom Rogic sort of fanboy, I guess.
You certainly are, Patrick. Yeah. You certainly are.
It's more just the desire that he actually gets successful, so we can get the games on telly over here. That's the big picture.
Listen. We do get the games on telly. If you would just open up your wallet, mate, and subscribe to Setanta Sports or Foxtel, you would get your games on telly.
See, middle class people that you can afford it. No, middle class people that you can afford it. Us working class people, you jet setting around the country and stuff like that. No, we'll people us in the suburbs will, we'll watch it on dodgies. We'll watch it on dodgies and stuff. So, no, he played well. Tony Watt played well. I guess I don't really have to repeat it. It's probably what most people think, but even Rogic, I think it was there was glimpses of certain ability there, but again, I don't think it was absolutely spectacular. It's a really good start, and for a young boy, it's he's certainly made an acceptable start. I wouldn't say he's set the world on fire and that. So I think it's still work to do. I think he needs to get his fitness up and get his strength up, but. In terms of the performance, yeah, I mean, there was a few sort of blatant errors and stuff like that. The own goal, geez, I don't know. I've got no idea what was happening there, but I mean, it's stuff that's been repeated on various other podcasts, so I won't sort of repeat what they've said. But I mean, in truth, Motherwell midfield, and again, it's a name that hasn't really come up in terms of even the Player of the Year stuff. I think we might. I don't know if that's on the agenda for tonight, Kev. I can't remember. But the Player of the Year stuff that was spoken about in the past week or two, the guy Nicky Law didn't seem to get any sort of mention. I think he's a bloody good player. So, but again, not really. He's actually
in the SPL Team of the Year.
Yeah, and rightfully so. He's a good player. I think he's a good player, but certainly the sort of guy I'd sort of notice in games like that. But they had a lot of sort of good performers and stuff like that. But by all accounts, they've been doing that all season anyway. So McFadden just does what he does. But the midfield we're certainly up and down the park, and it's the old sort of saying that the same way as we say, it's like we have to win the battle first. Well, they seem to sort of win the battle in the second half. And that's when you ended up with guys like Rogic, who's maybe a bit of a luxury player at that stage. When you really want somebody to dig in, maybe that's why they sort of bring him off and just change the formation. So, but yeah, disappointing in the end. But the simple fact is, it was Motherwell had to win it, and I always go back to these sort of scenarios when teams really, really need to win a game, playing against a team that doesn't really care. It's end of season stuff. That's what's going to happen, and I'm not saying we should accept it, but that's just the way it is. I think it's Motherwell had to get there to to make sure they get those sort of European spots and all that sort of stuff as well. So plus, you bear in mind as well, in the second spot, there's a hell of a lot of money up for grabs as well, compared to third spot. So I'm sure there'll be a bit of pressure.
Relative terms, of course. We're not quite talking EPL type
yeah, I mean
magnitudes of money here, but yeah, it's a lot of money to these clubs. Yeah,
yeah. So
it's an extra 80 grand, isn't it, for second place this year? They cut the huge amount of money that you got for second, and they spread that within all the other teams. So the difference between second and third is now only 80 grand.
I don't think it is, though. Is it? I think that was one of the proposals for the SPL.
No, it's just for this season, Pat. They've made that a rule just for this season, that they've spread the wealth of the second place around all the other teams. First is still, significantly more, about an extra $1 million more, I think. But second place only gets an extra 80 grand this season.
Is that right? Okay, I thought it was a bit more than that. So I thought it was a bigger jump between second and third. So
that's what it usually is. But it was just. I don't think there was a great announcement. I think the STV guys put it out one day that this had gone through, but just for this season.
That's a lot of the club. I take it that was done right at the start of the season, Jim.
No, I think it was halfway through. It just seemed to, as I said, it didn't really affect us, so maybe we didn't pick up on it that much.
Yeah, I guess it's all. I mean, there was a stage in the season there was quite a few clubs, much of a muchness, and it was quite close. So at that stage, they're probably thinking, yeah, we might as well let's try to spread it out here, not knowing that you could be finishing second anyway. So they were all going to take a little bit more of something rather than potentially lose out on a few more quids. So you can see why they would have done it. Yeah, especially with the dead club being dead. That's definitely what they've been after there, I think. So anyway, Jim, your own to finish off this little spiel about the Motherwell game, I suppose. What were your own views on it, I suppose?
As you say, a lot has been said about the game. And players' performances. I'd maybe like to turn it around a wee bit to the supporters and to the guys who actually went there. It's been a long time since I was a regular away fan, so I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody but myself. But I really feel for those guys, and I think when the tickets are available for our last 5 games, I think I'd like a strong statement. It can be a positive statement that Celtic are going to be playing their players from the future. We're going to be playing the likes of Tony Watt. We're going to be playing Rogic. I'd have liked to have seen McGeoch starting. I'd like to see a lot more of him. I'd like to see him get used to playing. But I think if this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to win every game at the end of the season. I've seen some dreadful, dreadful games at Celtic Park as well when we've been beaten after we've won the league. But if we can say, right, if you want tickets for Motherwell, for Ross County, for Dundee United, be aware that we'll be putting out guys who are the future of the club rather than first teamers. I know that there was one of your big supporters, I won't sort of say his name, but I saw him tweeting that he was looking for a ticket for his wee boy for the Motherwell game, that he was going to take him to his first ever away game. And as I watched it, I just kept thinking of him. Now, Celtic have no divine right to win any match. But some of the comments this week, I've thought have been really disappointing that, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, we've won the league, that's great. But if you're setting your alarm for 5:30 tomorrow morning and leaving the house at 7 so that you can get to Ross County for a midday kickoff, where they're closing all the bars where you kind of get a drink before and then setting off beforehand, and having a drink beforehand isn't the be all and end all. However, going to football is supposed to be a pleasurable experience, and if you're changing the terms, if you're saying actually it doesn't matter that much, but we'll still have your money, then people need to be aware of that well in advance. And I don't think that that's been clear enough. And I'm always very disappointed when I see a Celtic team who it doesn't mean as much to as the opposition. And it happens, as Pat says, it happens. But I want to see guys out there. And it was interesting that I think Tony Watt and Tom Rogic were two of our better performers, because it meant much more to them than maybe some of the other guys. So overall, disappointed, but especially disappointed for the people who go week in, week out, home and away.
It's a very good point you make, Jim, and those examples that you've given as well, when people are travelling long distances to go to see these games, and maybe, there's people going to games for their first time, whether it's they're taking kids because it's the end of the season and that kind of thing as well. You really are shortchanging these people. Yes, we can understand some of the reasons behind it. I know that Lenny's been interviewed and they've been talking. There's been a couple of players away holidaying already, sort of thing, because the league's done and dusted. And I think I heard an interview with Lenny who was saying that they're going to look to do that more over the coming weeks in the build up to the cup final, I suppose.
Yeah.
But so I think,
and we understand the Champions League reasons. It's
exactly
Champions League starting at a ridiculously early time. So
it is. So you can understand
we're aware.
why. Yeah, you can understand why the club are doing that, but again, it's taking the time to think about the impact of doing that on, as you said, the fans. Getting shortchanged, and I suppose even if Celtic aren't going to come out and actually state it, it's a good point. Maybe for people that don't know just now, we should be probably broadcasting this ourselves to just
Kevin,
be careful and just
press conferences. That's the thing. We're stating it in press conferences.
Yeah.
But we're not stating it on our own media. So if it's good enough for a press conference, then I would like us to make, as I say, it's not a negative. It can be a very positive statement.
Oh, absolutely.
Tony Watt, Dylan McGeoch, Tom Rogic are the future of this club. So come along and see them. It can.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other.
It's not
way.
something to hide from.
Exactly, that's the other spin we could put on it. But let's keep people informed and let them know what they're coming along to see. If they're dipping into their pockets and paying their hard-earned cash to potentially think they're going to see something they're not. So, no, it's a really good point you've made, Jim. So yeah, let's hope people have a think about that as well. And tweet us in with your comments on it, folks. At halftheworld88. Craig's done just that. He's sent in a couple of tweets. Any chance of having a wee chat about the players going on holiday? Surprised that Hooper went when he could maybe challenge Higdon for the top goal scorer, obviously. He also says, also believe that, and this is a very good point actually, I believe strongly in this myself, also believe momentum is a great thing going into a final. Do we lose that letting players go on holiday? Now that is something, again, thanks for tweeting that in, Craig, because that's something that I do always feel quite strongly about. In my view, there's nothing better than getting into the habit of winning, and it's okay tinkering with teams and things like that, but you just can't switch form on and off. You see it all the time during close season games, and then sometimes you have a little stutter at the start of the season when the players are having a break for a certain period of time and they get thrown back in together. You can't really expect them just to be able to switch that form on again, to be playing at 100% or to be playing at 10 out of 10. So yeah, I think it's a great point, and do you think, Josh, that is something that we should again be given a bit more serious thought to, about how many of our key players are going on holiday, taking a break prior to the cup final, or should they be trying to play with as many of the first team as possible so that we've got some kind of a momentum getting into that cup final? What do you think, Josh?
Well, basically, since Neil Lennon's been in charge, in the cup finals, we've not performed up to our usual standard. All we've really got to say is, really, the players, the coaching staff, and and Neil Lennon himself, need to take it seriously and focus on being as prepared as possibly can. Now, a holiday for some players, relax them, don't give them too much stress. That might benefit them, but maybe some other players, might benefit by, some time on the training ground. So, I don't really know if it's the best for them. What do you think?
Yeah, Pat. Well, if we ask yourself on that one, have you got a view on it?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think we should really be too surprised, because the club have been telling us that they've been planning on doing this for months. It's not as if it's something that's just kind of crept up on us. I think what's kind of brought it to the head is that everyone kind of looks at the result on Sunday, and says, that was a terrible performance, and this is the reason. But Celtic have planned this. I mean, it's not something that's they've just sort of thought, well, here's a good idea, let's send everybody away on holiday. The plan was always to get the league, win, get it over and done with, send people away for a rest, and if we made the cup final, get them back for that, and then send them away again. But bear in mind, against Motherwell, and I think I'm just trying to find a tweet I did on Saturday. I did check this compared to the week before, but between the prior week, we'd some 6 different players in the starting lineup from the previous week, and I think one of them was Stokes, which in truth I consider a first team player anyway. So if forgetting about him, you had Ambrose, Wilson, Commons, Ledley, and Forrest missing from the week before. Now, although there was a guy actually was winding me up saying, because I classed them as 5 quality players, and there was Feed the Bear, whoever Feed the Bear is, on Twitter. I can't remember his name, but he was saying, Chris Logue, he was saying, well, if he's not really a class player, I don't think he's that good, but it's just my opinion. I think he's a good player, but just off form. But when you take Wilson out, Wilson, we haven't really spoken about player of the year stuff, but see, in truth, I reckon Wilson for me has been player of the year. I know everyone's talking about Foster and Commons and stuff, but in terms of consistency, I reckon he's been the best for the season. But that's just my take on it. See, take out
I'd
Wilson. I'd
probably agree with that, Pat. I'd agree with that. He would be mine. It's I don't think there's one who all season has been outstanding beyond him. So in terms of consistency, I'd probably agree with you there.
Yeah, and I mean Commons has been good, but he's had sort of certain periods of the season where either he's not played or he's not been fully fit, or just not performed. So you take out Wilson, Commons, Ledley, and Forrest. That's like you can't take that amount of quality out of a team and expect to perform at the same level, if you know what I mean. So that's just my take on it. It's I wasn't surprised by it. Motherwell had stuff to play for. We didn't really have anything to play for apart from a bit of pride. You take out 5, 6 real quality players from the previous week, and it's you know what I mean. It's just all the factors kind of pointed towards maybe not necessarily winning or losing it, but certainly not winning it comfortably. But that's just my take on it. But
yeah, I think the concern, I think that we were talking about, and again it was the point that Craig had made about that momentum going into a cup final. Pat, I mean, do you think that you can switch that? Send 4, 5, 6 guys away, let them all come back, and do a week's training prior to the cup final, and bang, they're going to perform on the day for you. Do you think you can switch that on and off?
I don't know, but I reckon that's what they're taking a punt on, that it does happen, because I think they see the Champions League qualification as far more important than a Scottish Cup final win. That's just my opinion. So that if they see,
I think that's the elephant in the room, Pat. That's very much are we willing to face that as a support, let alone a club, that actually this Champions League qualifier is much more important than the Scottish Cup final. And I hear myself saying that, and I think that's crazy. It's a bit like the English argument is fourth place in the English league more important than actually winning something. Is Wenger a success because he always gets Arsenal into fourth place, despite the fact that they never actually win anything. So it's a very, very difficult thing to face. Those Champions League games mean more than possibly a Scottish Cup final. I don't fully know if I believe it myself, but it's tough, having had some fantastic days at Scottish Cup finals, to think that the Champions League qualifiers are more important. But
well, see, ultimately, I reckon Celtic, even the team that they're going to put out, because we're going to be without a couple of midfielders, even the team that they put out should be capable of basically walking over the top of Hibs. I'm not saying they're going to, because if Hibs raise their game on the day, they've got a great striker. I mean, he's certainly on form. He's up for Player of the Year and that sort of thing. Defensively, I think I watched most of the Falkirk game. and they were absolutely dreadful. And if we put Saturday's team out against them at Hampden on, even in that sort of form, our first half form, we would do the same thing. We'd take 4 off them.
I don't think so. I think we'd lose. If that's our attitude going into it, I think we'll lose.
No, I'm not talking attitude.
Turned up.
Yeah, I'm not talking attitude. I'm talking the players. The players should be capable. That team, even on Saturday, should be. I'm not saying they are, that they would do it on the day. That team should be capable of beating Hibs in the Scottish Cup final. But again, if Hibs come to play and they say, "Well, tell you what, this is no pressure. We have nothing to lose here. We're the underdogs. We're going to go for it." Then we could be another sort of embarrassing day at Hampden. But
I've got no doubt Hibs are going to be up for it. So I don't think there's any question about that. So long since they've been, close a couple of times in relatively recent history. So I think we said on the last show, I've got a little bit of a bad feeling about Hibs, just because I know we came and got through by the exact same scoreline, but there's just this little niggling feeling. Again, I said it a couple of weeks ago, there's a niggling feeling I've got that Hibs, their name could be on a trophy, and if we are not 100% on our game, if some of the guys are still in holiday mode, or they are focusing on the Champions League, then we won't be lifting that cup on the 26th of May, I don't think. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope the boys that are away, if it is a punt, as you said, Pat, that are taking, I don't really like us taking gambles or punts when it comes to things like this, and we're talking about trophies here as well. The other reason I think it'd be good to, you always want to win these things, but we've definitely got this bloody Hampden hoodoo, it appears to be, for a while. Now, I know we won our semi-final there as well, but we want to put that bloody thing, get the monkey off the back, as they say. So I've no doubt Hibs will be up for it. If these players have been on holiday and they come back and they're still a little bit on holiday mode, I know exactly what you're saying, Pat, in terms of man for man, skill for skill. We should be able to beat a team like Hibs, but if we're not on top of our game, as a lot of our players that did play on at the weekend against Motherwell, they weren't on top of their game by any manner of means, and we saw what happened. Motherwell were hungrier for every ball. There was times in the second half, I know, again, in interviews and stuff I've read, we didn't get going in the second half. Well, it's up to you. If you get going in the second half, you don't look to the other team to be sitting back and inviting them onto you. There was times in that second half that we were in possession of the ball and Motherwell were pressing us. They were chasing it. This is when they were 3-1 up. I remember seeing it and I thought, we can hardly even move out of our own half here because they are hungrier for it and they were going for that win. So if Hibs go at us with that same kind of attitude and we're off the ball at all, it could be nasty. But anyway.
Oh, look forward to that then.
Doom and gloom. It's all doom and gloom. I thought I was hoping that would cheer me. That's maybe a bit depressed now, Jim, thinking about that.
Well, I don't know. Statistically, does it hold out statistically that a few weeks you win the league early and then you turn up for a Scottish final and you lose? Does it actually does it have any credence based on what's happened in the past?
Well, I don't think the kind of build up or a situation to it's been the same as what's happening this year, because I'm not aware of in the past a number of first team players actually been saying, boys, take it easy, go on holiday. They've always been there or thereabouts. Okay, they might drop players to keep them fresh, but they're still there, they're still involved and that kind of thing. It's just, I think Pat mentioned it earlier on, it's a bit of a gamble we're taking. Hopefully it pays off on both counts, that we lift the Scottish Cup, and that way our players are well rested and they're fresh for when it comes to the Champions League qualifiers. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things. I don't want to be sitting on the 26th of May saying, there we go again, we'll just bloody blown it.
No.
But anyway, there's the old depression kicking in again.
But it is Hibs, thankfully, it is Hibs.
Well, it's a green and white team, so yes, that's the only
I'll
option.
all their records in the Scottish Cup.
Christ, I've got us beat already. Right, I need to change the subject now because this is getting awful. I think what we'll do now, and because bearing in mind, Jim, that you can only, I think you can only stay with us for another half an hour or so.
I'm not bad actually. I managed to do what I needed to do this morning, so I'm a wee bit
time-wise. Oh, good on you, Jim. Good on you.
Depressed.
So you can be here for the remainder of the show, which is about 4.5 hours or so. Is there anything like the last one?
Well, I need to get the announcement in. I've got an announcement, a big announcement about a commemoration we need to do of a football tournament in Alloa that took place in 1986. So I need to squeeze that in somewhere.
Oh, for God's sake.
We
got your researching that already, Jim, yeah?
I've been doing that, yeah. We've been working very closely with somebody behind the scenes. I can't name him, obviously.
Well, I was going to say, I've got a very good contact for you in that. I'll maybe give you his name. I'll speak off air about it and I'll give you his name because he might be able to help you out if you aren't already speaking to him. So, good on you. Well,
Tully Buddy Hearts, Jim. That's Tully Buddy Hearts.
Tully Buddy. Right, okay, I'll maybe get you to spell that for me later on, Pat.
Couldn't even spell it myself. I just remember Tully Buddy. Anyway.
Right, I think what we'll do just now, though, I think, if it's okay with you, Jim, and Pat, if it's okay with you, if you've got the audio lined up. Again, folks, Jim was kind enough again to pull a little bit of an audio clip together for us on another former Celt. And again, rather than... Yep, sorry?
No, but you can't give it away, and it wasn't quite, so... But the story will tell that.
Right, well, what I'll do here, rather than mess it all up, I'll just hand it straight over. So, Pat, have you got the audio lined up so that when we're ready to go, we're ready to go?
Yeah, I have, and I think Jim might want to do a bit of an introduction to it.
That's just what I was going to say, mate. So, Jim, do you mind taking this away, mate?
Yep, it's a little bit of audio based on the contents of our commemorative booklet that we produced for Charlie Shaw. We produce a booklet for every commemoration, which are all available on the website. And this was concerning Charlie's links to a chap who went by the name of Jack Call, a Garngad lad called Jack Call, originally from Ireland, who was responsible for taking Charlie Shaw to the States and many other Celtic and Scottish players to the States. So I thought, because it was in the Charlie Shaw brochure, I thought I'd maybe just include this for something a wee bit different. So, take it away. On April the 6th, 2013, Celtic supporters and members of Charlie Shaw's family gathered in the Madonna Cemetery, Fort Lee, New Jersey, to pay tribute to the life of Charlie Shaw. As usual, the Celtic Grave Society produced a commemorative booklet and attempted to tell some of the stories which may not have been known to the wider support. Here is one such tale: Charlie Shaw and the Call of the West. Back in 2011, a Celtic fan with a keen interest in the club's history came across a postcard at an auction which connects the famous Celt Charlie Shaw with the USA's first attempt at winning the Jules Rimet Trophy at the World Cup in Uruguay in 1930. In the 1920s, professional football was taking off in a big way in the USA and proving popular alongside other spectator sports such as baseball, basketball and American football, some of which were in their professional infancy. The American Soccer League, the ASL, ran from 1921 to 1933 and was the first successful attempt at a professional league, with clubs largely based on the East Coast. Scottish and English footballers flocked to join teams such as Bethlehem Steel, Fall River Marksmen and the Brooklyn Wanderers because of the comparatively high wages on offer, and of course the offer of a new life in the land of the free. In 1925, Charlie Shaw was turning 40 and coming to the end of a glorious career at Celtic Park. Charlie's sights turned westwards. Some of his former Celtic colleagues had spent time playing in the States, and agents were active throughout the UK trying to persuade established players to jump across the pond. Charlie told one Scottish newspaper that an informant had told him it was likely he could double his last season's wage at Celtic, and, relying on that information, he expected to be in clover within a year or two. It is known that Charlie sailed on the Cameronia from Glasgow and docked at New York on the 15th of June 1925, with his family joining a year later. Not much else was known about the move. At an auction in November 2011, a Celtic supporter and collector came across a number of old football documents for sale, but the one that piqued his interest was a postcard of the Celtic team who'd won the Scottish Cup in 1925. This was postmarked Glasgow on the 5th of June 1925 and was addressed to a Mr. John Call in New York City. The message on the card read, "Hello John, saw your brother Tom, Archie Haddo, etc, etc. I'm returning by Cameronia Saturday, due New York 14. Charlie Shaw is with me. See you when I get there. Kindest regards, Terry McKenna." So who was the man accompanying Charlie on the boat to the Big Apple? And what was the card all about? Little is known about the card sender Terry McKenna, but John Call, better known as Jack, was someone very well known to Celtic.
Okay, folks, welcome back, and hopefully you all enjoyed that little piece of audio that Jim pulled together for us. Again, if you've got any comments on it at all, just please send us your tweets, and or if you've got any questions for Jim, you can tweet us in at halftheworld88, or you can put your comments on the chat room on Spreaker there as well, and I'm sure Jim will happily try to answer your questions for you, or we'll give you some shout outs as well as they come in. But something I'm going to change the subject slightly now, guys. And there's been a little bit of discussion about this over the last week or so, and it's about he says as he's just about to have a sip of Shiraz, alcohol at football games. Now, there's been various discussions about this in a few articles in various media outlets on the web, etc. But I guess I would just like to go around before I share you my own view on this. And if we talk, let's not talk about football stadiums in general here. We're talking about Celtic Park, and maybe allowing alcohol to be served before, during, after, whatever you think it would work. If you think it would work at the games itself. So I'll come to your good self firstly, Josh, if that's all right. Have you got a strong view on this either way? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should the status quo prevail?
It really depends. I mean, when I go to a game, I like to have even just a few pints. That you don't really go to a football game and get, absolute pissed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a minority of people that really do that.
There's some fairly sizable minorities, right enough. Some games I've been at in the past.
By not offering, any alcohol within the stadium, people go to, bars outside the stadium, and people go to them hours before the game. So potentially people are getting more drunk, by heading out earlier and then going into a pub, and drink after drink after drink. Mm-hmm. Where, if they do offer alcohol, maybe only 2 pints, for example, then people, might not leave early and they might not even bother going to a pub.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you could say, by offering alcohol in the stadium, it could be encouraging people to drink.
Mm-hmm.
How's it influence the minors in the stadium? Is it encouraging them to drink? Is it encouraging more people to take part in drinking alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure, how many studies have been done on it. But, Germany, they're doing fine, but it's whether or not, it migrate well through our culture as well as it does in Germany.
Mm-hmm. And just on a point of clarity there, Josh, when you said influencing minors in the stadium, it was spelled minors, wasn't it? You were meaning there, not miners, as in coal miners, for example.
No.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that.
There's none of them left.
It's a sin and it's a shame. But yeah, no, that's fair call, Josh. Fair call. Pat, what's your own views on it?
Look, I've got kind of mixed feelings on it. To be truthful, I kind of, when I was kind of started going to the games, it was just after the sort of Hampden riot and stuff like that, and it was a genuine riot. None of this nonsense we've heard about before, between Celtic and Rangers and stuff. So that was when, as a young lad, I started going to the games, and I remember turning up to games and you couldn't walk in with any sort of can, bottle or anything. So I'm kind of, I guess, in a way, a little bit used to it. But I've been to a couple of games when I was living in Scotland, went to a couple of games down south, and to see how people can kind of do it down south and do it, in a sort of passive way. There's no sort of, going there to get absolutely smashed. That's probably my biggest fear, is that people would go and do it just to get drunk. So my whole sort of theory on it is, and sort of do it a little bit the Australian way, is that if people want to go to the stadium and have a drink, do it in a sort of social manner, in which case serves, and again they do this in Melbourne at the footy games here, they sell like a mid-strength beer. They don't sell full strength beer. So if you're going there socially, like everybody knows it doesn't really taste quite the same, but the simple fact is you kind of deal with it. If you're there and want to do it socially, you just put up with it, and like, I don't drink at games. I'm not a massive drinker. I've had my moments, right enough, but at the same time, if I go to the football, I go to the football. I don't really go there to get drunk. I've had a couple of beers at games now and again, but and I'm happy having sort of a mid-strength beer. Now, I think I sent an email to you, Kev, with what they have in Melbourne. I don't know if it's the same in Western Australia, but in Melbourne they had like what's the mid? I can't remember. Can't find it now. Yeah, so a full-strength beer like Carlton Draft, which again is a really popular beer here, would be 4.6, 4.7%, whereas mid-strength is 3.7. So you're not kind of getting the, basically alcohol-free kind of beer. It's not like a real light beer. It's something in between. And you do get a bit of flavour, and like, it's all right when when it's a hot day and stuff like that, and you go to the football, it tastes fine. But you'd have to drink a hell of a lot of them to get drunk. So so I have kind of mixed feelings on it. I don't mind it, but I think going down that path of having something a bit not kind of full strength would be probably the best way to go. Probably a bit safer in the long run.
Jim, what's your view on the whole alcohol at Celtic Park, or the reintroduction of it?
Well, I suppose I've got a few years on all of you. I remember, I was at the game. I remember that day very, very clearly. And the aftermath of it, which was utter chaos. So when drink was banned, I don't think anybody was surprised, and we were all used to seeing loads of cans and bottles all over Hampden. And I moved to England not that long after that, and the drink ban had been in for a couple of years. And I went to a Scotland-England game, and I think it was just as England had started bringing quite a few supporters up to Hampden, it started getting sort of pretty nasty, and there was a Scotland-England game when I distinctly remember, and I was at college at the time, I distinctly remember guys sort of standing next to me, basically downing whiskey and chucking the whiskey bottles at the England fans in Wembley. And I'd sort of read quite a lot of the Scotland-England match at Wembley, and it was the first one I'd been at, and it sort of opened my eyes a wee bit to what maybe did happen. So when I used to come back up, and I'd meet up with my mates, I'd have a few drinks before the game and go to the game. And of course, it was always Saturday at 3:00. I'd do the same in England, and to be honest, there was alcohol and sale on the grounds in England, but it was never a big deal. Nobody went to the football to go and get hammered. People went to the football to go and see the game, and the drink was incidental. It was to enhance your match day experience. So that's sort of clouded my thinking, and over the years I've seen various sporting events, and the most pissed I've ever seen anybody at any sporting event has been cricket. Nice demure bloody cricket, when people get absolutely hammered and pretty obnoxious. I've been to some some England cricket games in England where, the nice cuddly Barmy Army have been, a shower of arseholes. So that might just be me feeling uncomfortable being in their midst. But so when I look at Celtic Park, some of that experience sort of clouds, or not clouds, influences my judgment. But my main feeling on it is that we're talking about having alcohol at Celtic Park or alcohol at Hampden, and whether or not we should reintroduce it. We've already done it. You could. The Charlie Shaw ceremony started at 7, and after the match, I was kindly invited by a good pal who has access to the affiliation lounge to come and have a beer with him and a couple of other lads that I know after the game, and I was able to keep in touch with what was happening in the States, a couple of things that I had to keep on top of, but I had a couple of pints after the game. I have also been in hospitality pre-match and half-time and, had a drink. So it is already there. We can already do it.
Yeah, you're right.
So the argument is less, should we reintroduce alcohol? It's less that and more, is it fair that if you can afford to pay for hospitality, you can have it? But if you can't, then I'm sorry, you'll just have to drink around the ground. I'm very encouraged by seeing Celtic talking about enhancing the match day experience, and getting hammered doesn't necessarily enhance the match day experience. I know lots of my pal, and I've certainly done it. I've been, some testimonial games. Especially, it used to be, an all-day session, and you'd go to the game, and memorable days. But that would be a part of it. Those days have long gone for me. But I would like to see us trying to enhance the matchday experience, and that matchday experience means not getting to the ground as we often do as Celtic fans at 5 to 3, but actually, or 5 past 10 past 3. But actually getting to the ground a couple of hours early, meeting up with your mates, and having a beer, or it might not even involve having a beer, because that's what hospitality is about. It's about meeting up with people, and I would like to see somewhere where we can do that. I take my boy, and quite often we stand and chat to people by the statues. It's the only place we can go unless we meet up in the town and then come back. But I think that I cannot see that anybody is going to go to Celtic Park at 1 o'clock and suddenly get absolutely hammered in an hour and a half. I don't think the issue is. I don't think there is a massive issue around the match itself. The 90 minutes when the game's on, does anybody really want to go and have a beer? Again, I can't see somebody standing in the concourse drinking just to get hammered. And if they do, then, the steward will sort them out and remove them. But for me, it is really something that we need to be fair and to be able to say that if you're able to have a drink in the ground, it shouldn't be based on your ability to pay for it. And to me, that is the absolute crux of it.
And I think if guys were turning up an hour and a half before the game, Jim, but if Mr. Peter Law, for example, has decided that on his bar menu he's going to have Jaeger bombs, that might get them hammered before kick-off. You never know.
Well, in the affiliation lounge, I think there's Tennent's, there's a cider, and there's a Guinness. And they're similar in the Kerrydale suite. So, I think you'd be pretty ill if you managed to get totally rat-arsed on Tennent's in an hour and a half. There is a limit to the amount of gassy Tennent's you can drink in an hour and a half. Right. But for me, I want to take my kid early. I want to take my boy early, get him chatting with other lads, and when we do it away from the ground, we go to, there's a bar just attached to Glasgow Green by the People's Palace called West Bar, which was in the former Templeton's Carpet Factory. Massive place. It's a microbrewery. They have, really nice beers, very child friendly. Kids, there's a big grassy area for the kids to run around in. You can get a bit of food there. And for me, that's what we should be aiming for. Now, sadly, you have to walk through Bridgestone after you've done it to get to the game. But I just don't see why we can't have something like that. I see more and more people milling around before the games.
Yep.
And there is a revenue argument.
Yeah, that is all it is, in all honesty. It's milling around. For something like, if there was something there on offer, and again, that's what I was kind of reading into more in the articles that I did manage to read anyway, that it wasn't necessarily that was the sole focal point about getting booze back into the right around the stadium sort of thing and making it more accessible. It was all about getting people there, or at least giving people the option of coming to Celtic Park earlier to do more than just mill around or to go to the super, that kind of thing. It was to come early and make it more of an experience. And it just so happened that, alcohol is there if you so happen to want it. That kind of idea, rather than it's all about bringing booze back to the games. That's certainly the way I was thinking it was going.
Let's talk about the Australian comparison. I know, like Jim was saying, you couldn't imagine somebody sitting in the concourse just getting drunk. Well, at the Telstra Dome, Etihad Stadium. So my team are actually playing there tonight, and I've sacrificed going and watching my team to do this podcast tonight.
What's the score just now? I bet you still know the score just now, though.
We're getting beaten by 19 points.
Get in there, because I tipped. Is it Collingwood you're playing?
I tipped Collingwood as well, but still wants to kill it to win. But anyway, so there's actually a bar in the bottom level of Etihad Stadium, and I think it's called Stadium Bar or something, and it's literally behind one of the goals. So you bear in mind how big an actual oval is, so you can't actually see in. So people actually, and this is not a word of a lie, people actually go in there during the game. They just go in there and stay there for the whole game. So they will go into the bar. You can hear all the crowd and all the noise, and you get all the atmosphere, but they would literally stand in the bar and watch it on the telly and get smashed. So
that would happen. I mean, again, it depends on how it would be set up at Celtic Park. I totally agree that, as Jim said earlier on, we do have booze for the ones that go to the corporate and that's kind of side of stuff at Celtic Park just now. But it's not for the masses, that's for sure. And I've seen at Old Trafford, for example, I know they do, you can get a bevy down in the concourse and stuff like that, but you've got to drink your beer in the concourse, you can't take it up into the stadium itself. But what that encourages is people just deciding, I'm not going to watch the game. If they were interested in having a drink and watching it on the telly, you would get exactly what Pat's described there. That does happen over here. I think for this to work and for it to be properly policed, and if they were going to be serious about it, and you did touch on it earlier there, Jim, before I kind of rudely cut you off, you mentioned the revenue side of it. There's no doubt that Celtic could cream a few bucks in revenue in this, and I'm not talking about they go socking on ridiculous margins on what you'd expect to pay for a normal beer over there or whatever it would be. But see, when you see it on the likes of the baseball and stuff like that, the way the Americans do it, and you've got your wee guy, and I was thinking about this, guys, and bear with me here because this is my idea. It's maybe a little bit out there, but I think it could work a treat. It's called Helicopter Bevy Man, right? Now what we've got here, just picture it. Bear with me, but picture this. You've got a guy with a keg of beer strapped to his back, 88 pinter. He's got to be quite a hefty guy because those things are quite heavy. So he's got that strapped to his back. He's got a cooler strapped to his front. And he's got the nice draft taps just to his left-hand side there. And this wee guy runs up and down. You just sit in your seat. He runs up and down the steps for you. What are you having? Yep. Pint of Tennent's, thank you very much. Pint of Guinness, thank you very much. Whatever it would be, you're dotted around the stadium. You've not got a mad rush to a concourse because you're getting it served to your seat. But then there's somebody down in the lower tier needs one. Oh, what's going to happen there? How do you get to him quick? Turns on his little helicopter and off he goes, flying around the stadium bringing people their drinks. How could that not work? Helicopter bevy, man.
I think it would end up in certain death for some people, but yeah. Have you been on the bevy tonight? Is that where you come up with that idea? Are you?
I was thinking about it earlier on. I thought, how can this fail? It's the future. Obviously, it's the future. But no, all joke aside, see something like that, because you would need to police it very well, but you would need to avoid that whole idea of people spending the time just in the bloody bars, if there were bars on the concourse or something like that, and just not sitting in their seats. You need to make
you can
sure
close
that
the bars during the game.
Yeah, that's true. That's another way of doing it.
I mean, I'd be surprised. I've got no real interest in having a beer during the game. I mean, practically speaking, again, going back to cricket, or actually when in Germany, I went to a stag do in Munich, and as you described there, Kevin, the guys walk up and down the aisles with, I think it was bratwurst and the beer strapped to the back, and you get the beer in your chair. And there was a kid in front of us with one of those big fingers. The American football, big fingers. Yep. And we're sat there with our beers, and this kid's waving this bloody finger around. And, by the end of it, we're probably already covered in beer, but by the end of it, we're soaked in decent German lager. So at Celtic Park, I wouldn't actually want beer at the seats. So, and that's not what they have currently. You can't take a drink from hospitality to your seats. Yeah. And I don't think there's a great demand for that. I don't necessarily think that's what's being asked for. Maybe I heard people talking about Kilmarnock, that you can already go and have a drink at Kilmarnock, and as it turned out, it's a separate building. So I wonder if it's all about the pre-match experience. I know we've applied for planning permission for this big area, to knock down a London Road school and to build a cafe and possibly a museum. Maybe the intention is that that becomes an area where you can go and socialise pre-match, or even during the week. I was up at Celtic Park yesterday, and you go up there and you can't get a drink. I wasn't wanting a pint, but you can't go in for a cup of tea, you can't have a coffee. So it would be great to have something like that. And if it was detached from the stadium itself, then you wouldn't need to worry about legislation. Presumably that's how Kilmarnock get around it, because it's not physically part of the stadium.
Yeah.
But it's good to see us exploring options, and. If there's a limit to how we can increase revenue through football, then we have to be looking at options around the ground, such as hospitality. And ultimately, that's all this is. It's hospitality. If people are spending their money away from the ground, then we have to look at ways to get them to spend the money in and around the ground.
Well, see, just to take up some, like Ernie Boy in the chat room was saying, like basically they'll charge an arm and a leg for it. So as I know, Jim was saying, is Peter Loyal has mentioned something about enhancing, I guess, your match day experience, as long as it's not purely exploitation, because that's what it could turn into.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way people in Australia feel, because you're buying light beer. Now, this is the irony at Aussie Rules games. You can only buy mid-strength beer, and it's extortionately priced. But at the same time, you could buy a Scotch and Coke. So you can't buy full strength beer, but you can buy a Scotch and Coke.
Yeah.
So go figure that one out. So, but that's just the way it goes, and that's going to be the same everywhere. That they will, you have your overheads on top of your normal sort of bar prices. So,
but there's still going to be choice, Pat. At the moment, my routine just now, as I mentioned, West Bar, and the beer's just fantastic. For the kids to run around is brilliant. Mm-hmm. So there is choice. And at the moment, Celtic would have to put up a good product that is non-exploitative for me to say, actually, I'm going to change my routine from West Bar to going up to Celtic Park Earl. Now, because I'm a Celtic fan, I'm obviously going to look at it very, very favourably. But if it's pish, then I'll carry on doing what I'm doing just now.
So as you mentioned, Jim, it's all about the hospitality, but there's no room at all for a helicopter bevy, man, at Celtic Park. Is that what you're all telling me here?
I don't usually like the word helicopter being associated with Celtic. It's got very bad
Remember,
memories.
we did have.
I think
Well,
that would
remember
rule it out.
remember we did have our own helicopter day, right enough. Well, I'll maybe need to go back to my drawings. I'll maybe need to go back to my drawings again with that one, Jim, and come up with a new design. I'm not going to let it go though.
We do
Somebody
have
did
Arthur.
try it, didn't they?
Well, we do have Arthur Rusk. I think he might be from Melbourne. Is Arthur? He's in the chat room saying, "Let's go back to the rolls and cheese, and rolls and spam out of a big cardboard box."
I remember the macaroon bars out of.
He's mentioned that as well, yeah.
Boxes and the spearmint chewing gum as well.
Hey, Kev, here's one to take some from your idea. Let's expand on it. What you could get some guy doing to cut all corners is get some oranges with some vodka syringed into them, and then walk up and down the aisle selling them.
That would work.
You can get pished, and it's not that heavy. Sold.
Does that already happen? That already happens, I think.
I'm going to copyright that one.
They'll take my fruit away. Please don't let them take my fruit away. It's the only thing I could get into the game now.
You've had it now, Jim. You've been nabbed. You've been nabbed, mate. You've been had.
Bang goes the cover of an 11-year-old. That won't work anymore.
Exactly.
Excuse me, sir. What are you doing with those 25 oranges? I've got a vitamin C deficiency. Yes, yeah, I can see that.
Craig's
I've actually stopped searching as much. I've noticed recently that the searching, or obviously in certain parts of the ground you get searched thoroughly, but these days it's just a casual glance. So if you really wanted to, then you could get something in, but I just don't think there's there's a huge demand to be absolutely shite-faced in the ground. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's my time of life.
Jim.
No, don't kid yourself, Jim. I reckon
some of the boys that used to go in the old Ergo Bra CSC back in Coatbridge would. Honestly, there'd be certain games. We would meet up in the Columba Club in Coatbridge fairly early-ish, round about opening time on a match day, and we'd have a few beers. But then when it was the time to do the shouting, that right, come on folks, that's your bus, blah blah blah, there was on occasion the odd handful that would be doing. They were starting to enjoy their beer a wee bit too much, and they were thinking to themselves, you know what? Especially if it was a bloody cold and miserable day. You know what? Yeah. I'm just going to bloody sit in the pub here. And that was at the time when usually you'd be able to see the game on a Polsat or something like that in the pub anyway. But I always thought to myself, that's bloody sad, because the only thing that's keeping you here is you've had the taste for the drink, and you're actually making that decision. You'd rather sit there and have your drink than go to the game. Now, if there was an option that, and maybe supporters clubs would run it differently. I know basically the way our club ran it back in Coatbridge was, you'd turn up to the pub before a game, and I have no doubt that some people would try to get as much into them as they could before they got to the game, for the simple fact of they knew they were going to be sitting there for an hour and a half and sober up. You know what I mean? So they would try to get as... Yeah. So, whereas if the option was you could either, you could go into Celtic Park earlier on, there might be a bit more to do. There might be stuff... There wouldn't be that feel that you need to... if you want a drink that day, you need to cram drink into you if you want to get a bit tipsy or whatever. So I think
that's what we need to get away from.
Yes, I think you're right.
As a grown-up society, and as bringing kids into the world, you have to get away from the idea that, right, let's go and cram it in.
Yeah.
And taking your kid to a game where people are having a drink, where people are enjoying a bit of company and they have a couple of pints as part of it.
Yeah.
And maybe to see that actually anybody who's fallen about completely wasted isn't praised to high heaven. People look at them as sort of a bit of an oddity. Maybe I think I would like to think that people would, that we have moved on from the 80s, and that people would welcome it as a progressive development rather than and practically speaking, I think there is a real limit to how much you can get down you in an hour and a half with the queues too. But I would like to think that it's something we would welcome and an opportunity for people to go along and just meet up and have a chat with their mates.
Yeah. I don't want to go on about this too much longer, folks, but we've had another couple of tweets coming in.
Because you need to go and have a drink.
I'm going to give Helicopter Bevy Man a shout. He's away down. I can see him down the other side of Mandara there, but I'm going to give him a signal. We'll be here in jig time in his little copter. We've had our good friend Krauski Donsky, who's obviously listening in as well. And Krauski says that he's more a fan of not having a helicopter. He would rather have a little train going around each row with drinks and hot dogs, etc. So that's a play on the mechanical theme there as well. But yeah, that's maybe a good shout. Craig's also managed to find a picture on Tinternet and he's sent it on. So obviously I'll try to describe this as best I can. But if you can maybe go on to Twitter and see what he's put on. But it is, would you believe, a helicopter bevy man. He is actually pouring bevy out, but he's got this little baseball cap with a tiny little helicopter thing on the top of it. It's not quite what I had in mind. Not quite what I had in mind.
I think you might find, Kev, there's a bit of photoshopping being going on there.
Do you think so?
Yeah, it's very subtle. It's very subtle, but yeah, it's yeah.
Well, what I'd like to see there, go back to a bit of photoshopping, and I want to see proper helicopter blades there. I want to be able to see this invention, because then I'm going to try to take it to the manufacturers. It's got to be worth a few.
Well, you could just submit that picture with your copyright application. You'd be right.
Those blades wouldn't get him off the ground, Pat.
Highly sized the boy. No, not a chance.
Right, anyway, keep the tweets coming in, folks. I'm glad there's at least 3 or 4 of you listening to this just now. It's always good to hear. Right, I think what I'm going to do now, if it's okay, I'm going to kind of, again, change the subject a little bit. But this is something that Pat and myself have had on the agenda for probably about the last 2 shows or something, but we've never ever got round to it because we always get on to something else. But I want to try to cover it off on this show if that's okay. And it's talking about, and it maybe ties in with what we were talking about earlier on about, you know, we're coming to the end of the season, the league's in the bag. We know some of the players are on holiday, but it's maybe given some of those players that we mentioned some of them earlier on that we believe now are due an extended run in the team, or certainly a run to take us to the end of the league season. So I've got a list of names here in front of me, guys, and I'm going to kind of shout them out. And I guess if we can go around the panel and let's get our view on these guys as I kind of shout them out and say, you know, what does the future hold for them, and can we see them featuring in the run-in in the last few games? So I'm going to start off with a guy that we've signed. We haven't seen a lot of him, but Rami Gershon. So Rami Gershon, he's only 25 years old. You know, is he a player that we'd be saying, you know, that's a guy that we should be throwing into the team there, or is he going to have much of a future even at Celtic? Josh, if I can come to you first.
Well, he's only played 1 game so far. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why exactly he came into the club. I don't know if the coaching staff or maybe backup for Zagiri perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it just seems like a bit of a waste of money, sort of like what happened with Brozic last season.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he'll be staying in the club at all.
Pat, Rami Gershon?
I think he was probably brought in as cover for Izagiri. I think his form was a little flaky, you could say. So I reckon he was brought in as backup, but Izagiri's kind of improved as the season's went on, a little bit up and down now and again, but I guess better than he was, at some stage early in the year anyway. So I reckon it was just a guy that came in as cover, and I can't see him being offered a new contract. I think he'll be going.
Jim, what's your own thoughts on Rami?
How long is his contract?
I think it was only to the end of the season, wasn't it? I think it was just a yeah. I think it was. He's on loan from Belgian side Standard Liège, is it? Something like that.
Right. If he's on loan, to be honest, we've just not seen enough of him.
No.
To be able to make a judgment. And if we are, going back to the point from earlier, if we're looking to not just rest players, but to see what other players can do, then it's the chance to play somebody like Gershon. Izzy at the semi-final, in the first 90 minutes, he was battering up and down that wing constantly. But then when it came into extra time, he was knackered. And luckily Stokesy came on and done that job of really sort of going for every ball and pressing them. But, if anybody's going to get a rest, don't just rest them, but let's see what some of these other guys can do. But there is a limit to how much you can see in 2 or 3 games, I suppose. But if the scouting team thought there was something there that made him a good enough proposition earlier in the season, then presumably something still is there, unless something's been seen in training. But I'd like to see him given a chance in the last 2 or 3 games of the season, again as a positive thing to say, let's see what this lad can do with a run out of 2 or 3 matches.
Look, guys, do you think it's more worthwhile putting someone like Joe Chalmers in rather than putting Gershon? Chalmers, 19, 20 years old? Would it be more value for the club putting him in for the last few games and putting Gershon? Because, as you said, if Gershon was good enough, he'd have been in his team and at least had a chance before now. So obviously they don't see enough in training and in the sort of practice matches that it justifies a game. Whereas Chalmers could be potentially the future for that position. So just a thought.
Yeah, I think. The way I see that whole situation, I think Josh touched on it earlier on there as well, that I do believe Gershon was brought in as cover, and he's certainly got a little bit more experience than Chalmers had, Pat. I think that's maybe the only thing, but I would agree with you. I think that, as far as the future goes, if Chalmers coming through, the only way you get experience, obviously, is by playing games, and maybe this would be a good time to throw him in there ahead of somebody like Gershon, but I'm not too sure what the future would hold for him. I honestly think Gershon was brought in as cover and nothing more really. He's a squad player, very much in the periphery of the squad, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's let go or if somebody comes in for him. I think he is on loan, isn't he? So if that just takes its course, we'll see how it goes. What I'll do, guys, as I said, I've got a few little names, not a million, but I've got a few here. But rather than go around and get the view from everyone, it's going to be just Russian roulette here. So I'm going to throw a name at you, and then I'll just get your own view, and then we'll move on to another player and get your view, etc. So the next one on the list, and no real order here, but we've got young Dylan McGeoch. Now, we know a wee bit more about Dylan. We've all seen a little bit more about Dylan. He was unfortunate with a broken nose, I think he picked up in a pre-season friendly against Real Madrid, which made him miss the start of the season for us. But he's had a few little run-outs sporadically, but he's certainly made some good contributions from what I've seen. He's only 20 years old, I believe, so I think he's a fairly good and promising player that we'd be wanting to hang on to. I'm going to give a view. If somebody could give me a view now on Philip Twardziek, and it's going to be Pat.
Why did you give me him? I have only seen snippets of him.
He's one of the probably one of the guys that does make the odd appearance.
Well,
when you'll hear some of the other names you put on the list.
Well, can you ask me one of the other names then?
No, you've got right. I'll give you Tony Watt. Right, I'll give you an easy one. Tony Watt then.
Yeah, he should definitely be given a run out. Absolutely. The performance on Saturday justifies that enough, I reckon. Especially, yeah. I think Hooper's gone now, isn't he? For his wee nanny nap. So, yeah, so he's if he doesn't play, you'd think probably him and probably someone like Stokes up front.
But say Tony Watt scores 2 or 3. What if Tony Watt scores 2 or 3 in the last 3 matches? Does that mean he plays in the Scottish Cup final?
I would have no qualms about that, personally.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely no qualms about that.
That's what I want to see in the club. If people are in form and scoring, I'd like to see them stay in the team. I think there's been an argument that there's quite a bit of loyalty to certain players, and maybe that loyalty is good. You know, it's good to see Hooper back in the score sheet with those couple of goals. But you know, for quite a while, Gary Hooper hasn't done it. I think it's 3 goals in 14 matches. But that would be a tough call, dropping him for the Scottish Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see Tony Watt given a run at too. I think he's a huge prospect.
And he's only 19. Only 19. Yep. Josh, I'm going to throw a name at you now, and it is Lassad Nui.
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, where the two players for Spanish football come over, Miku and Lassad, and you know, Miku, he was supposed to be, you know, number 7. He was supposed to be a big signing this season, you know, because the fans were kind of wanting, you know, a big striker to be signed, you know, for a couple of million, 3-4 million, and I don't know what he was valued at again by someone. You know, someone said he's worth like 6 million. But obviously, you know, he's not performed well enough to get in the starting lineup. And Lassad, yeah, he was more productive. You know, he took his chances, but in quite a few games that I've seen him, you know, he's just went missing a bit.
Yeah,
he's not really fitting properly. But when he does get a chance, you know, he does usually score it, especially if, you know, it's around the 6-yard line. No, I can't see. I can see him. I was trying to get rid of him, you know, at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. He did score a memorable goal against Hearts, I think it was, at Tynecastle.
Yeah, it was a fantastic goal
in that game, but it was
not question his finishing ability, but his all round play isn't really good enough to be a first team striker week in, week out for me. Back up at the very most.
Jim, I'm going to throw an easy one in terms of we all know this character fairly well. Anthony Stokes, 25-year-old in July. He's out of contract in June next year. What would you think about Stokesy?
I think he's been given a new contract, hasn't he?
Oh, has he?
A couple of weeks back. Yeah, I think he's been given a new contract.
There you are.
I don't think he's been given. I think they've said they were going to offer him a contract. I don't think anything's been signed. So,
right, yes, all the way for me. When he came on against Dundee United, I think he made all the difference. I think he's active around the park. He's got movement, and he's an SPL scorer. And I think in our squad, whatever we're going to do in Europe, we have to look to have somebody who is an SPL scorer. And I think Anthony Stokes certainly is that. And he gets Celtic. He absolutely gets Celtic and what it means. And I think you have to have players like that around the club too. So, yep, keep all the way for me.
I'm actually going. I know I said I'll just give you each a name and comment on them, but I'm quite interested to hear the rest of your views on Stokes because, in my opinion, he's the type of player that we've got that has the fans divided. I don't know what that divide is or what that split is, but he does come across as the type of player that some people think no, get shot of him, others think keep him. Now, Jim, you've made it clear you certainly want to keep him. Pat, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely deserves to be in there. I think the enthusiasm he's shown when he's come on in certain games. I would say absolutely deserves a run out. And well, let me just throw one. I guess just a yes or no answer. I guess for each of you then is, I think we all kind of rate him as a player. I think Josh is the only one not to comment yet. But assuming Hooper leaves, is Stokes the direct replacement? And again, just yes or no. Would he be the replacement for Hooper if he left?
I would hope he wouldn't be the replacement, but I would hope he would hang around. I would hope we'd be looking to bring in another Hooper type of player, to be honest, if he goes. But yeah, and I know I'll come to you in a second, Josh, but I might as well continue what I'm saying there because I totally agree with what Jim and Pat said. Again, I'm a large fan of Anthony Stokes. But I do get the impression there are quite a number of Celtic fans out there that don't see his worth, think he's past it, or he's he's not got what it takes, and they'd happily see him move on. I still really, really, really like him. I know he was out injured for a while earlier on in the season, but for me, I look at him when when he was playing with Falkirk, when he was playing with Hibs, and again, to be honest, it takes a player at those teams to be really good for me to sit up and notice them. And Anthony Stokes was a player like that. I was a little bit disappointed when we had the opportunity to sign him, and he decided he'd go back to Arsenal and stuff like that, whatever happened. But when he eventually ended up at Celtic, I was happy because I remembered him as the player he was at Falkirk and the player he was at Hibernian. And I think he's done some great stuff with us. When you think back to the season last there, and his link-up play with Hooper, I think not only is he got a good eye for goal and he can stick it away, his link-up play is superb and his vision superb, and he can pick a pass that not a lot of strikers, have it in them. Now, whether that's again through his coaching that he got as a youth at Arsenal and stuff like that, who cares? But I still think he's a tremendous player, and he's one of these guys that he seems to have been around for quite a while. But I think it's because he was, to us, we saw him at Falkirk quite a while back when he was only a real youngster. He's only 25 in July. Even though his hairline's diminishing a bit, he's still only a youngster. So, I would agree wholeheartedly with what you guys have said already on Stokes. I'd love to see him stay. I wouldn't like to see him if Hooper were to move on. I wouldn't like to see him taking the mantle of our number one striker as such, because I don't think he's got maybe the shoulders for that. But playing with another quality
play. I suppose we could change the way we play.
Potentially.
I know there's been, quite a bit of talk of having a bigger striker, somebody with more of a physical presence. So if that was to happen at some point in the future, then maybe Stokes could take on a bit more of the Hooper role. But I don't see any signs that is the type of player who we're looking to sign, no matter how much people might want it. I could see him. The header the other week was fantastic.
It was, yeah.
I think when he's in the box, he couldn't have scored the number of goals that he scored early on in his career unless he was a penalty box striker. So maybe he needs a run out in the team where Hooper isn't there to see if he could play that role. Maybe now.
And he was
somebody else will try to squeeze into the team.
He was unlucky actually hitting the post against Motherwell at the last weekend as well there. But I think what makes Stokes that good player is having that smaller kind of striker and more mobile striker round about him. Because I do think that he can spot his partner making those little runs, and it's just playing that little dinky through ball or something like that. Whereas I'm not so sure. Maybe he would be able to feed off a big striker. I'm not so sure, but just for me, his best type of partner is the style of a Gary Hooper, I suppose. So, Josh, we've talked about Stokes quite a bit. I don't want to leave you out. What's your own view on Stokes? Do you echo our thoughts, or are you one of these fans that doesn't see what Anthony Stokes is all about?
Well, I think Anthony Stokes is definitely, a 20-goal a season striker. This season, he's been injured for the majority of it, but his other two seasons at Celtic, he's scored 21 and 20 goals. Now, overall, I don't think he's as good of a player as Guy Hooper. But at the end of the day, he is like a 20-goal a season striker, and this season he's started 9 games. He's been brought on during the game 5 times, and he has 5 goals and 6 assists. So this season, he actually still has a decent rate. 5 goals, 6 assists, and basically 10 full games and 8 partial games.
We can always rely on you for the stats, Josh. Good on you, mate. We
Impressive.
love the stats. We do.
Very
We need
good.
the stats. We need the stats.
I don't think he'll ever kind of be, our number 7 striker. Because in some games he does go missing, sort of like what I said about Lassad, where, Guy Hooper, if he's having a good game or top of his game, he's always going to cause you problems. If you get the ball into the box in the 6-yard line, he's always going to put it past the goalkeeper. But Anthony Stokes, sometimes, his flair, puts it over the bar, just puts it wide, or he's just not there, he's trying to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think he's worth keeping, because I'd say, to Celtic, to get another player who can score 20 goals a season, you're probably looking at about 3-4 million. And I don't think we'd be able to sell him for that much currently. I don't think in terms of wages he's costing us that much either. So he's definitely worth keeping to either be a starter beside a better striker, or as backup to 2 other strikers, as he's sort of been this season.
I wonder, am I just imagining it then, that there's a few Celtic, or quite a lot of Celtic fans out there that don't fancy Stokes? Do you guys have the same views as me on that, or am I just thinking this? I've got this from somewhere else. What about the guys you go to the games with, or the guys you speak to? Does everybody rate Stokes, and I'm just rambling again and making nonsense up? Or have you heard people say?
I don't hear much negative stuff directed at him.
Well, maybe I'm just making all this up.
I don't know. I mean, when he's come off the bench, another way to look at it is when he's come off the bench or when he's been out of the team, he seems to have reacted, very well, positively when he's came on. And he has, I think he was the reason, as well as maybe Dundee United, playing youngsters and being tired, that we won that semi-final. I thought his energy was fantastic, and what he gave to us when he came on. And he's, as I say, he's reacted very positively, and he's just got on with it. How would Gary Hooper be if he was dropped for a few weeks, or if he was on the bench? Would he react as positively? Don't know. That's speculation, maybe, but I think Stokesy has been great. And as I say, I don't hear a lot of negativity about him being in the team. So that might be an Australian view.
No, I agree with Kev. I reckon perception overseas and reading forums and Twitter and stuff like that is people are fairly harsh and fairly critical of him. So I don't think you're alone in that, Kev. That was my kind of perception as well. That people are easy, really, really quick to get on his back whenever he does make a mistake. Whereas some players, they can let it go. And but yeah, maybe it is just the fact we're overseas and we're just getting the wrong end of the stick. But it's certainly my perception as well.
I think it's true of a number of people. It's the one thing I would say, Pat, that mistakes at times aren't very well received, and that really frustrates me, especially when I see some of the young players we're talking about, or guys who haven't had a run in the team. You can't come on and be fantastic immediately. It would be great if we did, but it's very frustrating to see that, and it's not widespread by any means. But I see some kids round about where I am almost like picking up the mantle from the adults that, this is what you do. If somebody sort of has a misplaced pass, you immediately on your feet calling them a fanny. And that's so. If I would like to see some people actually having a run in the team, back to what we said earlier, and if they perform, to be kept in the team.
Yeah. Craig's tweeted in again on the Stokes subject and saying that he does like Stokes, but he can be a greedy player. He knows strikers should be greedy sometimes, but he seems to do it when better options are available. Overall, though, Craig thinks he's a great asset to the team. So I guess that echoes kind of what we've been saying. Kralski says Stokes deserves a slot more than Hooper on current form and work rate at the moment. Our good friends at the Rebel Podcast, they've tweeted in. The first part of it says, McCourt can GTF. I'm going to come on to Paddy McCourt in a second. Stokes as a good player. Watt and McGeoch are excellent future prospects. And then hashtag at the end of that, IRA. Fair play to the old Rebel Podcast there.
I think Callum's on the tops tonight. There's been a few tweets come out in the past little while. So,
well, fair play to him. Keep the tweets coming in if you're still listening and we're not boring you too much. Jim Kinlan's...
you have to read some of these tweets, by the way. Let me just quote one of them's. No, I can't say that. Have we done the expletive kind of tag on this podcast?
I don't think we've been too bad tonight. I think we've been
no,
bad.
Well, in that case, we'll just keep it that way. I won't repeat what the Rebel... Anyone wants to see the Rebel podcast, our good friends in Melbourne. So Rebel, RHEBL podcast, PHODCAST. So Rebel podcast.
Get following them.
Callum is well and truly on the touch tonight. And Callum, Andy, if he listens back to this, we need to get him on because I want a review of the Celtic onesie.
That's right.
We need to get... In fact, I know some... What do we call her that called in last week? What's her name at the moment? Madam, whatever her name was.
It was
Mar.
Madam,
We'll call her Mar, yeah.
VMAR, but it's
she's got
Madam.
one too, yeah. So we need to get her on to get a review, but she's probably pickled up in Sydney somewhere.
I actually saw someone buying it yesterday. I was in the shop. I saw somebody buying one of them yesterday. It's horrendous. It's really horrendous, this thing.
40-50 quid. It's 40-50, yeah, it's 40-50 quid for one of them, so...
Well, with the amount of bloody material in it, I'm no surprised. It's massive. It's like a Yogi Bear costume. It's huge.
Maybe for your size, Jim, but think of us, Slim Jims over here, Fine figure of men over here, Walking around the beach with our six-packs, so... Anyway.
Of course, there's no changing room to try it on. I would have tried it on, but, there's no changing room in the shop. So
you can just put it on over your clothes, surely. Surely that's the beauty of the onesie.
It would fit.
Jim Kinlan sent us a couple of tweets as well. He's saying when Stokes is in the mood, he's been the perfect foil for Hooper. Well worth a new contract and would love to see all get an extended run bar Gershon and Lassad. So they're the ones we've spoken about just now. Now Callum he did mention him, and I was going to come on to Paddy. I guess I was kind of deliberately leaving him till near the end here as well, because Paddy's another man that some of us love to bits, some of us think, what's the point of you hanging about there? So love him or loathe him, Paddy McCourt. Josh, what do you think? Paddy is 29 years old, but he's out of contract in June. What would you be doing if you're Neil Lennon?
I wouldn't really keep him, to be honest. He comes on games here and there, and quite frankly, he's not actually really done anything this season at all. I know last season he had a really impressive assist for a goal against Motherwell.
You do love your assists, Josh, don't you? Your assists.
But he's came on. He's brought him as a sub here and there, but he's not actually done anything. To be honest, I'd rather see someone like Dylan McGeoch come on as a sub, and get the games, or Philip Twarzik. So I'd sell him.
Again, I'm going to get around everybody here because I want to hear everyone's thoughts on Paddy. Pat?
I think he is a genuine, skillful, talented player. We just don't play him in the right role, or we're just the wrong club for him. And I think he deserves to go out and play somewhere else and get actual full-time football for us. Well, and see, when he plays for us, this is what I think of Paddy McCourt. Now, I'm going to cast people's mind back to my era. Now, I'm a big fan of British comedies and stuff, but a Harry Enfield character in a sketch was, I think it was the Arsenal of the 1920s versus the Liverpool of the modern day. And it was in black and white, and it was this whole game about, the people playing, and it was Charlie Charles. So if anyone's never seen it, it's hilarious. It's this comedy sketch.
Is this when the ball was pretty much stuck to his foot?
And there was a character called Will, adapted to speed, Finney. I can still remember it to this day. And it's like they do all these skillful things, and then they give it to him, and he just goes tap, 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 and he doesn't actually do him with the ball. That's the way I see Paddy McCourt.
I remember that very sketch, mate.
Yeah,
I remember that very sketch.
Will, adapted to speed, Finney. I can still remember, and I just think when he gets the ball, and I do genuinely think he is probably the most skillful player in our team. But I think the play slows down when it gets to him. That's kind of the way I see him. When you want sort of that thrust forward, you give it to him, and he either cuts in or he cuts across players, or he'll try and beat somebody, or he'll go out wide when he should be coming inside. And that's kind of the way I see him. But I think it's time to move on. Just give him another platform to play on.
Jim?
I'm rioting.
You're rioting?
I'm rioting. If Paddy
It's a song, Kevin.
I'm with you.
No, I go to football to see the likes of Paddy McCourt, to be excited, to get in my feet, to see something amazing. And it really saddens me that there isn't a place for players like like Paddy McCourt. I echo everything Pat just said there, that we're not set up to accommodate him in the team. I don't think we ever will be. And I would love to see him doing his stuff somewhere else. I'd love to see him doing it first and foremost at Celtic Park, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So I would love to see him at least having the last few years of his career doing it somewhere. And I think it's a real shame that we can't accommodate him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hear that Barcelona are looking for a summer buyout replacement for Messi, perhaps.
There you go. Maybe a swap deal.
Perhaps.
I've saw something that Messi's interested in getting his shares in the Rock Bar in Belfast as well. Is there any truth in that rumour, or am I gone completely over everybody's head here?
I think that's as wacky as my helicopter baby, man.
Right.
Suggested.
Well, the rumour can't be true then. Oh, I must have picked that up from a dodgy source.
No, maybe there's. I don't know. I've not seen that one at all. But who knows? Paddy McCourt, I love the guy. Love him to bits. Just what you said as well, Jim, about the type of player that you associate as or you would love to be able to stereotype as a Celtic player, is Paddy McCourt when he's running round guys for fun and beating them for fun. I don't know why he doesn't get a bit more action. Whether it's, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes in the training. Is Paddy? I've heard the rumour that Paddy likes the odd puff and the old ciggies. Is this true? Do you know that, or is that something else? Somebody told me and I've just believed stupidly. Nah, nobody knows.
Don't know. Doesn't Messi smoke as well, or is that another dodgy rumour?
I can't remember. I don't know.
The best
I know
players are smokers.
I know Andy Tom used to love puffing on the old ciggies. That's why he used to get down so often. He'd wait in the physio to bring him, run over with his 20 cans at his club off the side of the park.
Well, we've got our beloved leader. He's a chewing tobacco man now at the moment, isn't he? If you ever see him during games.
Yeah.
He sticks a bit of the chewing tobacco into his gums and stuff. So, yeah.
Ah, right.
Absolutely.
Never knew that.
Yep, absolutely. So, if the bold Lenny can do it.
The more suitable for tobacco.
So we've got Jim Kinlan has tweeted in again saying that Sammy and Paddy have gone in opposite directions in his perception over the past 2 years. He used to love Paddy and detest Sammy, so it's went full circle for Jim. So and a story has just came out. I just noticed it on News Now, is that Joe Ledley, it looks as if he has said his time at Cardiff is in the past and he's looking at signing another contract with Celtic. So that's a good thing. Good. So it says, I had a fantastic time at Cardiff and learned all my stuff there. I'll never forget that, but I've moved on. Now I'm here. That's in the past. And he says he'll always be linked with Cardiff. Obviously, it's nice to be linked with any club, but I've heard nothing, and all I can do is concentrate on Celtic. The fans have been brilliant since day one, and I loved every minute of being here.
Excellent. Good news. Good news in my book for that. Because But see, to be honest, again, I think that whole stuff about the joke, and I think we did actually, we discussed that a couple of weeks ago, maybe briefly, but that was mischief making as usual by the press. It's such an easy link to make. Cardiff winning promotion. Oh, will Joe Ledley be tempted back now? At no time did I ever see anything that he was actually saying I'm wanting to go. Anyway, it was just the usual mischief making by the old Scottish mainstream media as usual. And but what's brilliant about this whole thing is Ledley actually coming out and saying that. I take it that's all quotes, Pat, yep. It's none of this a source close to Joe says or any of that nonsense. It's actually quotes from Joe Ledley.
According to the Daily Express website, which is another... so take
must
that
be
with a pinch
true
of
then.
Aye, well, it's got a picture of him, so it must be right. So there's actually a really good quote down at the bottom of it. I think I just saw one of the guys on Twitter post it as well, but it's one of the players that was on that list, and it's, now I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, but Buradin Atajic is his name. So he's 19 years old, Swedish, born of Bosnian descent. So he's basically talking about his time in Sweden, and he played for Malmo, and he's been at Celtic for this long, and he says, I have been compared to Zlatan Ibrahimovic quite a lot, and I don't mind that at all.
Why
very
would
good,
you?
mate. Very good, mate. Yeah, he's
I
about
did
seven.
see,
He's about 7 foot tall, and you're about 5'2". So yeah, I can see the comparison now.
I did see the goals in the cup final. What was it? Was it the under 17s?
No, it was under 20s.
Under
Under
20s.
Under 20s. Yeah.
I get lost with the bloody age groups over there now and what they're doing. But I saw the goals and he scored a cracking header. We Atajic.
Yep.
It looked pretty decent. And that
4
ring, I
doubles
mean,
in a row for that team. Brilliant.
that's
Absolutely
right.
stunning.
I know. Yeah, pats in the back all round to the youngsters because they're winning everything in sight at that level, which is great. I guess that's why it makes it all the more baffling why we're maybe not seeing a few more of these guys getting a chance.
Good question, Kevin. Why are we having a discussion about people like Gershon, if, or even Paddy, when Paddy was brought in a couple of years back, or Niall McGinn, if the youth product is so good, surely we've got to be actually playing some more of them or being there as backup so that they do get a chance.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest players have, had their chance. Somebody's been injured or somebody's been out of form and they've come on and sparkled and kept their place in the team. And we've got the guys on the bench. I'd like to actually see us bring them on a lot more often than we do, just to even build their experience. Because the youth setup, the youth setup is great, but you can only really say it's a fantastic asset to the club if the players are coming through or if we're selling them for huge sums.
Look, this was my point earlier about, why bring Gershon in when you've got Chalmers who has an element of potential, so why not give him the opportunity than Gershon, who, to be fair, probably isn't going to be here next year. I mean, I guess we could say that with a dozen positions in the team that, these guys like Rogney and that are getting run-outs, and people just shake their head going, well, I think probably Rogney's a bad example because I think the main sort of guy that would come through would be, oh God, I forget the guy's name. Young guy sort of plays on the 20s.
The main guy as well, Pat, and you forgot his name.
No, I can't remember his name. The guy, he got injured. He played a game a couple of games a few years ago. Anyway, I know the guy I'm talking about, but anyway, can't think of his name. But see, the people that are coming through, is why not give them that chance? Rather than putting guys out there, Hooper's kind of been off form, so why didn't we stick earlier in the season or give Atajic that sort of, that 20-minute half-hour run out of games just to give him that experience. Yeah. Another name on the list was the Melbourne guy, Jackson Irvine, who apparently is playing well, but there's all these guys that why maybe now is the right time, but at the same time we were chatting earlier about we really have to take form into the Scottish Cup final. But if you're going to play 19, 20-year-old guys in the first game, you're not going to get that momentum. So we can't have it both ways,
It's maybe going off track, but I would like to see is actually having a bold statement like Arsenal in the League Cup done for years and saying the League Cup is going to be the next step in development for our youths. Quite a lot of the time, you see first team players playing the League Cup, and I think it doesn't mean that much to me anymore. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of us, but it would. Yeah. If we were given, a lot of the kids a run out. I know we tried to do it in the Arbroath game, and it almost felt like a one-off, the Arbroath home game, before we brought a lot of them back for the replay. A lot of fringe players got a run out, but I'd like to actually see us playing the kids and giving the kids the opportunity and the opportunity to shine, and I think that would be welcomed amongst the support base.
Yep. No, I think you're right, Jim. Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's difficult to get the balance. You're right, we can't have it both ways. Either we play the experienced guys, or we end up trying to bring in some of the younger boys and give them. I guess you look at it as a reward for what they've achieved this season. And let's face it, the biggest reward for these guys is getting a crack at the first team. So. Okay, who knows how it's going to play out? I think we know how it's going to go right enough, but we shall see. Now we've got another tweet in here from Jim's just confirming basically to us, Jim Kinlan, to say that I heard Ledley say it himself and that the Champions League is the ultimate that Cardiff can't give him. So fair play to Joe Ledley. I think we're all united that we're all happy to see him come into his future at Celtic.
Absolutely.
Mr. Steph, Big Steph 1981 has tweeted us in to say McGeoch, Watt and Gershon should start all remaining games if fit. Paul George, Atajic and Twardzic should also get runs out. So yeah, I think that's carrying on the theme we were talking about there, Steph. I think we would all like to see them, but again, let's make it known so that if fans are planning and going along, they know what they're going to be getting for their money. Jim Kinlan's coming back to say that again, we talked about this earlier, but got to be careful we don't lose momentum with the continual changing of the team. It's the catch-22, and I think we're all probably agreeing with that. We do. We want to have our cake and we want to eat it at the same time, I guess. So
just a quick one. If anyone does get to look at the highlights of I think it might be on Celtic TV, might even be on the YouTube thing, but check Paul George's haircut. Good Lord, seriously. What is going on with Celtic these days?
Is this at the cup final?
The cup final, you have to see this. It is horrendous. It is the worst haircut I've seen in a long time.
Try and describe it as best you can for us, Pat.
It's basically shaved up to about, I guess, this kind of above his ear, so it's like shaved at the side. I mean, I'm talking completely shaved, not short, shaved. And then it's not even a mohawk, it's nothing. It's just this in between. You know, just have a look at it. I'll try and find a picture somewhere.
So that's your haircut you've just described us. Now, what about Paul George's?
I'm going to quickly sidestep that one and say we have got a new caller, Kevin. If you just look at your Skype.
Wait till we see, because I was looking at something else there. Now let's see who we've got here.
Drum roll.
Do you want me to do the countdown? I've got little sound effects. We should try these one day.
We've got too many on. What? Looks as if we've got a million callers on here.
Well, see, I'm a bit worried because we did this last time. It went absolutely tits up. So let me just. I've got. Right. So can you see who it is?
Sounds as if it might be Craig.
No, Are you blind? Can you actually see that?
Oh, do you know what? It's Krauski. Is it Krauski Dodsky?
Well done.
Listen, because listen, on what I can see in front of me right now is also Tony Cassidy. We've got Miss Minsky's, we've got Jim Kirtland. That must have been last week. So
that's last week. Yeah, that came up in mine as well.
I don't know where my bloody.
Look in the link below it. There's a little link below it and it shows you the current call. There's a little red telephone symbol next to it.
Oh, if I hit that, I hang up, mate. So don't do that to me. Right, listen, Krauski. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, aye. This is my every week, start of the week. This is my my Saturday. I don't work on Fridays, so it's a good time to listen to you boys. So I'm good. I'm just also listening to what you're saying in terms of the bringing in the development team and the first team and that kind of thing, and just want to kind of put a wee addition to that. One of the best games I watched, albeit it was on Sky, I think I no doubt had to listen to Neil McCann or something else, but one of the best games I watched this season was when we played Inverness, up in Inverness, and we had boys like Marcus Fraser, we had Gershon playing, we had there was quite a few French team players, if you remember, and we beat them 3-1. And I think maybe we not go down 1-0, but then we came back straight away and we end up winning again 3-1. But just for having, I think Dylan McGeoch played that game as well, and I think he got man of the match. And just having those young kids on, also seeing Gershon there as well. In fact, it was Tom Rogic's debut as well, wasn't it? Tom Rogic set up the first goal, didn't he, for Celtic?
Yeah. Yep.
That's right. So obviously with that was for me. That was what I was hoping to see for the rest of this. Well, no, the rest of the season, but quite a large proportion of the season. Watching boys like Marcus Fraser, Tom Rogic, and all that come in, and also making an impact in the team. I think we've also went further down, and we've had other games where we've put in, let's say, French players, and it's no worked. You know what I mean? But obviously, from that perspective, that's what I was hoping to see this season. There's also an opportunity for these boys to come in and actually stake their claim. I mean, I hate to go on about Hooper and all that, but having Hooper come in and no looking is what Hooper can really do. You know what I mean? I was hoping that maybe one of these young boys, Tony Watt, would really go and stake his claim. If Hooper's not going to be here next season, then Watt is going to stake his claim to show, but it's okay, Hooper can go, because I'm ready to take his place. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, that was probably probably the best game I've seen in terms of giving the boys a chance and seeing what they can do. You know what I mean?
It can sometimes backfire. That's the thing as well, because I like, again, if we talk about the Motherwell game last week, I've no doubt that in my view Tony Watt was our best player certainly on the day, but I still felt that towards the end of the game his head was maybe going down a wee bit. I think he was the player that looked as if he was giving us the most against Motherwell, but towards the end of the game, I honestly felt Tony's head was going down a wee bit as well, and he was making the odd error. There was one instance I remember on the left-hand side, he kind of overran the ball and it went out for a goal kick right in front of the Motherwell, that wee group of fans that they've got as well. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work again, and it is. Pat mentioned it way back earlier on there about it's a gamble. Whatever you decide to do with these things, it is a bit of a gamble. And I sometimes think if we're throwing too many of them in at the same time, that game you mentioned, Kralski, I do remember seeing that one, and I did enjoy it myself, because it did all seem to click that day. But I think there can be other days that if it doesn't quite go according to plan, it's great to give them the chance, but it's something that Jim touched on earlier on, we're very fickle as Celtic fans, and it's all well and good to test these things out, but if something does go wrong, or we have a bad performance, or we get a poor result, or all of a sudden everybody's on their back, and why was so and so playing, and he's never a player, and blah blah blah.
But then we might be a bit more forgiving than that, Kevin. If it's guys who are coming through for the youth team, I think we might be more forgiving than. That's where, if we do have something like, as I said about the League Cup, we've actually got a club policy that we're using this competition to showcase the kids, so that people can get used to seeing them, get used to know their style of play. But I suspect that these. When I started going, I'm forever harking bloody back to those days. Sign of getting older, I suppose. Back in the day. And Harry Enfield wasn't there, but no, back in the day, you would get used to seeing, people coming through. You'd forever be buying players still, but you would see people coming through from the reserves. And maybe now we're a lot less used to seeing that. Maybe it's really only the exceptional players coming through that we see. Maybe it's only the Forests, McGeoch didn't exactly come through the youth system, did he? Aidan came through the youth system. So maybe because we don't see 3 or 4 coming through at a time, maybe that's changed that much. And maybe I think that people would be a bit more forgiving, because they realise that if this guy's the cream of the crop, he needs time to develop in the team. Yep. But, back to the point earlier, if we are going to, as Pat said, if we're going to sign somebody like Gershon and he's not going to get a chance, then we're really losing nothing by putting some of the kids from the under-20s in the team.
Yep.
Actually, I should just point out that Tony Cassidy's tweeted in and said at the press conference yesterday it was mentioned that Rami Gershon wouldn't be signing with us. So he's going.
Oh, right, okay.
He's going back to Standard Liège, isn't he? That was a point I was going to make myself. But and I think I said on your show before, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I would rather that, say, for instance, watch young kids play with heart and desire and maybe get beat, than watch what you're talking about is your higher calibre players, your Hoopers, your Commonses and all that. I'd rather watch kids come in with a bit of desire and heart and maybe lose, rather than watch, obviously, what we saw, I thought was a disappointing performance from our better players, kind of better players last week. You know what I mean?
But
the league's already won.
Kralski, would you sacrifice going into the cup final with 2 losses just to see those young guys come through? This is what I was talking about before. That's the balance you got to say. Like, you want to take the form into the final, but at the same time, you want to play the young guys, but you won't necessarily get both.
See, if you look at McGeady's debut against Hearts,
yep.
I think the season was already finished for then. McGeady came in against Hearts, and from what I can remember, it was only really McGeady that came in and started that game as a fringe player. Well, it was not even a fringe player, just a complete youth player. I think that was his full debut. He hadn't even made any subs appearances before then, and he came in and he scored the winning goal. Now, see if we, let's say for instance, each particular game, let's say we'll have a good nucleus, a team, but obviously we bring in maybe 1 or 2, 3 maximum youth team players, fringe players into the team, or we pretty much ensure that we're going to bring them on as a sub for half an hour at least. So I'm not saying the way I just flood the team with youth team players. I'm just saying obviously you just kind of integrate 1 or 2, 3 throughout the rest of the season. You know what I mean? I think if the boy Twagic didn't get injured, I thought we would have seen a hell of a lot more of that boy. It's a shame he got injured because he was getting subs appearances and was getting. I think he started that game in Inverness as well. Did he start that game? Was that before? Well, anyway, obviously, I think there was players there where at the start of the season, Lenny was prepared to at least put them on the bench, and then if the game was going well, put them on and give them game time in that respect. But I think as the season got on, after say Christmas, that died out. That died out. But no, I think it was Craig that mentioned it before in one of his tweets about the momentum. We need to keep the momentum going. We want to obviously keep that winning feeling going into the final, because I think it was Kev that said about the final being a bit dodgy about it. I don't know, something just doesn't sit right with me. Playing against Hibs. Hibs have got this. Look against Motherwell. Sorry, I'm ranting on here, but last thing, look at Motherwell last week. They had that European place to go for. Yeah, let's say our league was kind of finished. Yeah. I think against Hibs, if we're no 100% against Hibs, and Hibs are all firing all cylinders, going for that first cup win in how many years, I think we could be in trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in terms of momentum and all that, I think I agree in that respect.
I'd got over that depression earlier at the start of the show, Kraus. You just put me back in it again. With the Hibernian Cup final stuff. Oh my God. Let's put that in the back of your minds. We've had a few more tweets coming in. Tony Cassidy, who you'll know, Tony was on the last show, or the show prior to that, I forget now, but Tony was on, giving us a bit of a rundown about the youth setup and things like that as well. Tony's been trying to Skype us in, but it's a bit buzzy and crackly. I think that usually tends to happen when we've got a few callers on. I think maybe 4's about a limit, so... But,
I think if Tony's looking to get on, I should bow out, lads, because I'm going to have to head soon anyway. And I think if we're talking about the kids coming through, then Tony's certainly the boy for that. So I should probably bow out now.
Well, not a problem, Jim, if you're wanting to do that. Thanks very much for joining in. And thanks again, Jim, for taking the time to pull together that little audio for us earlier on. Much appreciated, mate. And we'll hopefully get you on again soon.
Actually,
I'll get you some details through about. There's a couple of things coming up which are sort of being planned just now.
Well, but before you bow out, then, Jim, if you're going, do you want to maybe take this opportunity to maybe share that information just now, if you've got something there?
I've just been checking if it's definite. I've just been looking at it's not definite.
Okay, so, not a problem.
So, like many things, a bit of secret squirrel stuff going on there. One thing we will definitely be doing is on
looking
May
into that Alloa 1986 tournament that Pat was attending.
You took the words right out, and I've just Tully Bungee Hearts, was it?
Tully Buddy, come on, people.
That was that Billy
Fife, I think. Hello to a resident Tully Buddy fan. I'm sure there must be somebody in the area who listens in.
Yeah, got to get pelters for that. But no, on the 28th of May. There's possibly a couple of things going on. 28th of May, 125th anniversary of our first ever match. Now, I know that there is the possibility of something happening at St Mary's in the Calton. Okay. At the 125th Mass on November the 6th, there was the start of the appeal to raise funds to have a mosaic at the entrance to St Mary's to commemorate the historic link between St Mary's and Celtic. By the end of the night, the funds had been raised courtesy of the generosity of Dermot Desmond. So the plan, I believe, is hopefully that will be in place before the start of next season, and fingers crossed, maybe even before the end of this season. So maybe even May the 28th, but there's a number of things need to happen, and that has been commissioned in Bethlehem. Local Palestinian tradesmen in Bethlehem have created that mosaic, and it's fantastic. I've seen a couple of pictures of it, and it is stunning, and that is going to be in the entrance porch to St Mary's. So that's a possibility for May the 28th. What will also definitely be happening, which I'm going to announce over the weekend, is that to commemorate all of the players who played in that first ever match 125 years ago, we are going to be laying flowers at all of their graves, not quite simultaneously, due to the fact that a couple of them are in the States, one of them's in Prague, but we're working on making sure that all of those players are commemorated on that very, very special date. And we might expand it to say, if there's a Celtic player who you know who's at rest at a place near you, get a bunch of flowers and drop them in the grave that Tuesday, May the 28th. 2 days, hopefully, after we win the double.
That would be good timing, Jim, if that's the case. So there'll be more information coming out from yourself on that one in Celtic Graves, Jim. I take it as time moves on.
We've spoken to a few people. There's a few supporters clubs already committed to doing this, and we just need to confirm a few other details with some others. But hopefully that will be something that everybody will see and will be able to commemorate. That there are Celtic players buried throughout the world, and if there are the opportunity just to sort of remember them, what a special day that would be to remember them. Yep. So May the 28th. Hopefully, and that's the other thing, Hibs, 125th anniversary, who better than to play Hibs, who were so integral to the founding of Celtic. I would love to see us wear the 125 shirt that day. It probably won't happen, but I would love to see us turning out in the 125th anniversary shirt.
You're making me feel happier about this final now, Jim, with this being on. Of the nostalgia and how we always seem to have a date with destiny for certain things. That's cheered me up a little bit now after the depression of earlier on.
We've got a fantastic record against Hibs.
We certainly do. We certainly, there's no doubt.
Some of the most special Celtic Cup finals have always been against Hibs. So
you've cheered me up, Jim.
A wonderful, wonderful occasion, and we'll still hear Sunshine on Leith, but it'll be before the match.
No, hopefully.
Just one quick thing, Kev, before Jim disappears.
Yep.
The audio stuff that Jim has done, we're putting up. We've kind of trying to set up a little Spreaker site for it. We've put one up there, the Charlie Gorman one we did last time. We've uploaded that one, so it's very much a work in progress. I'm sure Jim will sort of announce something. I guess a bit more up and running, but it's kind of an in progress thing that we'll do. And the one from today on John or Jack Call, I'll try and upload that tonight. If not tonight, it'll be tomorrow morning. So in its entirety, not split into two different parts. So and hopefully we get more of these sort of in the future. So no pressure, Jim. No pressure.
No, absolutely. As I've said to you, Pat, it is a work in progress, but we've tried to do this for years, so I'm grateful to you lads for giving us the impetus and the platform for doing this. It's totally a different podcast, but I visited the museum at Kelvin Grove. They've got a Scottish football exhibition on at the moment, and I expected to see Jack Call in there. I believe he's mentioned in Hampden. I've not been to the Hampden Museum, but I went to the exhibition at Kelvin Grove, and I was amazed not to see him in there. So it was supposed to be about how Scotland shaped world football, and I think it's a whole new discussion. But I'd love to know just how how much people think that seeing our history in, we're talking about Celtic Park and the whole match day experience. How important would a museum be at Celtic Park? Would people make the journey, especially to go to the museum before the game, to look at exhibits, to look at the history around people, like Jack Call or Charlie Shaw? And I was disappointed in my visit. I loved the history of the game, but was a wee bit disappointed in the Kelvin Grove exhibition, maybe because there wasn't enough of us. You walk in and there were our former rivals, and there was Aberdeen, both winning cup finals, and a big wall as you walked in, and we were in a wee room on a wee TV screen at the back. So as I say, it might just be because I'm particularly sensitive to that. But I thought that should have been trumpeted. But I would love to hear what Celtic fans think about our history and whether or not we as a club should be doing more about it in terms of our own museum. And being able to do the podcast and being able to get the history out there, I would hope is a few footsteps on the journey towards that becoming a reality at some point in the future.
Jim, obviously Celtic Graves have got their own Twitter account there with Twitter handles. You get a substantial number of followers anyway, but give it another shout out there for anybody that's listening that's maybe elsewhere in the world that, again, is maybe listening to this for the first time or whatever. But how can they get in touch with you, or how can they give you feedback or give you their thoughts on what you're talking about there about a museum in Celtic Park, that type of thing?
Email info@celticgraves.com. Website www.celticgraves.com, or on Twitter @CelticGraves. There's various threads on the site which are constantly being updated. There's some interesting stuff about Jack Call and the memorabilia thread. The postcard which is being referred to in today's recording is on there too, as well as some other stuff. One thing to look out for in that memorabilia thread, which is stunning, and we sometimes think of history as 1888 or the turn of the century or Lisbon. There's a collection. Neely Mockin Jr. Has a collection of football shirts which a couple of lads, Jamie and Stevie Kearney, went and photographed, and are stunning. Absolutely stunning, and they are the epitome of football cool if you go on and look at these. So there's about 20 pages worth loaded up onto the site now of the Neely Mockin football jersey collection. So go onto the site, it's in memorabilia. I'll fire a link up once I finish the call. But the shirts are just stunning, absolutely stunning. In full Technicolor glory too.
Excellent.
So Celtic Graves, we are obviously, our core function is to remember and to make sure that people's resting places are maintained, but we're also sort of passionate about our history, and hopefully that thread will show you that we're just as interested in recent history as we are in the foundation of the club.
Good on you, Jim.
I'll fire a link to that. But thanks again, boys. We really appreciate the time every week. Or every couple of weeks. So thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your night and your weekend.
Not a problem, Jim, and thanks again for coming on. We're only too happy to help you boys out of the Celtic Graves Society as well. It's just a pity that you have to wait a couple of hours in between your audio clips of us talking dribble.
No, you need to keep interrupting me, because otherwise you can hear her just rabbit on for hours. Thanks very much, lads. I really enjoy it. It's a great thing to do on a Friday. So
good
thanks
on
very
you,
much.
Jim. All the best, and hail, Jim.
Hail, lads. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Jim.
Hail.
Right, folks, what I was going to actually say, because we've been going on for nearly 2.5 hours now, I think we're sitting
148 minutes, Kevin.
Is that right?
Yep.
Bloody hell, right. Why does this always happen, Pat?
We were targeting an hour and a half today. 1.5 hours. So, we've kind of missed that.
As usual. Do you know what, Kralski? I'm going to blame you, because I was ready for wrapping it up before you came on. But then we can't let you on and just have 20 seconds and say hello, cheerio.
I'm just about to go anyway, because I've just got a house full now. Loads of rain, so I've been on mute for about the past 20 minutes.
But well,
actually, let me ask Kralski a quick question then. If he was there, were you there at the Firhill riots?
Oh, not at all. No, not me. Not all right. I was a wee bit vocal about it, but one reason, I mean, it's blown up proportion, I guess. I mean,
just tell her what happened.
Tell her what happened. Come on, what happened?
Daddy?
That's a bit of a mess, isn't it? But commotion over nothing, we shall say. Eh?
Put her on the phone. Come on.
That's my wee boy. Say hello.
Hi, wee boy. Hello.
Hello, fella.
What's your name?
Hey, turn up. Speak.
Hello. What's your name?
What's your name?
Hello. Hello.
Oh, that's
There you go. Right. There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Shh, this show's going downhill fast.
Jamie.
Jamie. Hiya, Jamie.
You're Batman, yeah. He's talking about in a Batman costume.
Gold.
So, let us go anyway, boys. Good show as always. I'll probably listen in the next one anyway, okay?
Well do, Kralski. Keep in touch, mate.
And next time, mate, call in a bit earlier.
Yeah, call in a bit earlier.
Somewhere in the first hour and a half would be nice.
I had to charge your phone first of all. Now I was only sitting 5% from it.
Good on you, Kralski.
Hail, boys. Take care.
Hail. We'll speak to you soon, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
Now, Kevin, I've got to say that I do love Tony Cassidy, but luckily he messages and says it's a bit too long. He can't call in. So
no, I think
I'm not sure how much more else I can
take.
That's
the thing. We were saying bye to Jim for about 20 minutes there, I think, as well. So
right,
as we do though. Right. And now there were 3, so we've only got myself and Josh and Pat back on. But guys, honestly, I'm going to try to wrap this up. But the way I'm going to wrap this up...
No, we have to do something first. Don't forget. We have to do the Homeboys campaign, which I think
right, sorry. Pat, you tell us a wee bit more about that, mate.
It's absolutely spectacular. I listened on Monday, and I think it is a genuinely brilliant idea. There's no point going on about the Kano Foundation. Everyone sort of knows what the story is and what they do and stuff. So it's a bit of an incentive to try and raise some money for them. What they're trying to do is to get 1,000 Celtic fans to pay £1 per month for a year, pretty much. So basically 12 quid for the year. Now, if they can get 1,000, obviously 1,000 people doing that, that's 12 grand for the year. Now, I think they said it was something like they were paying, was it 600 quid or something like that? I can't remember how much we're paying exactly for tickets and stuff like that, but you think of how much sort of good that's going to do for them. So I just reckon it's a brilliant campaign. I've retweeted stuff from Homeboys a couple of times on it. Spectacular idea. So if anybody start following the Kano Foundation, all right, I'm going to try and do it as well, a bit harder with exchange rates and all that sort of stuff, but I'm going to try and do my part for that as well. I think it's a brilliant idea, brilliant campaign to try and raise some money for these guys, because they do an absolutely brilliant job. And if anyone is actually listening from the Kano Foundation, you are more than welcome to come on this show anytime and just chat whatever the hell you want to chat about, promote. You can do whatever you want. You have an absolute, a forum there you can do whatever you want with. So, great campaign. So get on board with that. I mean,
good on you, Pat, for mentioning it as well, because it was on the list there, and I had missed it. But again, you're right. This is going to be a bit more in reach of your normal kind of Celtic fan, I suppose. It's not quite the same as the 125 or 125 idea that Celtic come up with, but I think £1 a month over a year, so 12 quid over the course of a year is fairly affordable to most, and I would certainly think, going at their targets there, I think you'd get a lot more than 1,000 Celtic fans coming up with that. So best of luck to the Homeboys with that, and of course the Kano Foundation as well. So anyway, just to let you all know that Jim Blythe has put up with the link that he was talking about earlier on to the Nearly Mocking collection of Celtic jerseys that he was talking about. So He's just tweeted it there just now, so if you go into at Celtic Graves, you'll find a link. You can have a wee look at that. Those jerseys he was talking about. I know I'll be doing it shortly after this. We wrap this up.
I've just retweeted it as well, Kevin. So
well done, sir. God, you're pressing the buttons all over the show tonight. You're producing the show. You're doing the tweets. You're retweeting.
Yeah, well, Josh just sent through the link for. There's actually a link on a page on the Hail Hail Media website about the Kano Foundation campaign. Okay, so I've just tweeted that as well. So anybody that's listening, like, it's £1 a month. I think there's not many of us that can't afford that. So great cause. So.
Yep. No, here, Pat. Right, guys, I'm going to try to wrap it up now, and the way I'm going to do it is just by quickly talking about we do have a fixture at the weekend. It's not exactly a glamorous fixture. It's against the mighty Ross County, but it wasn't that long ago that we were up there and we suffered a bit of an embarrassing turnaround. So I'm going to try. Well, I'll try to keep it as brief as we can, given the time that we've been on here now. But Josh, thoughts on the game? We've talked about, should we be playing, bringing the youngsters through? What's the most important thing? Do we do that? Do we put out a team that we know is going to win the game for us and mind the cup final? If you were Neil Lennon, what would you be doing for the weekend against Ross County?
Obviously I'd start some of our big players, like Charlie Magoo, Fraser Forster, Ambrose. Inzaghi, but I'd also like to see some of our youth players, like Dylan McGeoch. He hasn't actually got as much game time I'd like to see him get this season. Dylan McGeoch, Tom Wojcik, maybe Filip Twarzik. I know at the end of last season he had a few games. He looked very good. He looked good against the Kilmarnock in the game against Kilmarnock 6-1.
That's right. Yeah.
There. And then up front. What I'd like to see him again, not only because he's a prospect for the future, but because he was basically our man of the match in the last game. You could probably put in Stokes up there as well, perhaps.
Yep. So, what's your prediction, Josh? Away to Ross County on the Sunday. What's the scoreline going to be?
I think it'll be a tough game. Ross County, they're a good team. They've not got standout individuals, but they always work hard. If we put in as much effort as them, I can see a wee bit of revenge, maybe a 3-1.
3-1. I would settle for that. Pat, your own thoughts on the fixture Sunday? It's going to be 9 o'clock kick-off your time?
9 o'clock, Sunday night. Nice start. So here's a little bit of education for you, Kev. The game is Overmorrow.
Overmorrow. So that's the day after tomorrow.
It is. It's a fact. It's not a word that's used enough. I reckon we should try and educate the masses to use it more often. So
we're playing a bit like bounce back ability that was done through Ian Dowie and the old Soccer AM. We're going to try to start this Overmorrow, Pat.
Overmorrow, yeah, we are. So there you go. So
give it a go.
The match Overmorrow. I haven't really seen even what the squad is. I'm trying to find a tweet someone sent earlier about some player. I think they said Forster was one of the players that's now on a break, and there was someone else who I can't quite remember. That's what I was trying to find. So bear that in mind. There's your number one keeper is not there, and there was another. Yeah, I just wish I could find it, but I don't know. I wouldn't be looking forward to this one too much. I mean, depends who we get back in terms of the guys that went for a wee holiday last week. I would be probably happy with a competitive fighting draw. I think in this one, I think there's more. Same as last week. I reckon there's more for Ross County to play for in this game. Well, we've got no keeper. Probably get half of our defences out on holidays. Same with midfielders. I think it might have been, was it Hooper and Foster? I think the guys that have gone. So you factor that in. I think it's going to be several sort of players that fringe players, I guess. We might see Gershon and these sort of guys come in, but I'd be happy with a win, but I think I'd be equally happy at the moment with a draw against them.
No chance. I'm never happy with a draw or
actually happy's not. That's not the right way to put it. Not happy.
No, happy's not the word, Pat.
No, I think
whether it happens tomorrow or overmorrow, Or maybe even yestermorrow. Undermorrow would have been yesterday, is that right?
Yeah, is there such a thing? Yeah.
Undermorrow's probably today, actually.
Right, so we're now on to 8 hours in this podcast. We're swiftly moving on.
Right, so what's your score prediction? You said
I'm going to take a punt on. We will win 2-1.
Oh, yes. Right, so you're not happy with a draw. It's a 2-1. Right, I reckon after all that's been said, there is going to be a smattering of changes again. But I think because of the poorish second half performance against Motherwell last week, we'll hopefully get a little bit of a reaction there from the boys that come in and the guys that are left behind. And I do think we want a little bit of revenge from what happened last time up there, losing the game after being 2-0 up. So I think this time it's going to be 2-0 Celtic. 2-0 Celtic. I'll be watching it in Friar Tuck's on Sunday in Mandurah. It's going to be a 7 p.m. kickoff in Western Australia. If you're in the Mandurah area or thereabouts, get yourself along. Try to get in touch with me. You can tweet me on this one, the old at halftheworld88, or if you want to get in touch with me directly, you can get me on at KJPO'Neill72. As I say, yeah, we'd love to see you down at Friar Tuck's. It's been going quite well. Last week, unfortunately, there were a few things come up because I was preparing to go up north for this week. I didn't manage down, so there weren't as many of us there as there have been for the previous couple of games we've been able to meet up. But the Mandurah CSC is going from strength to strength, and hopefully we'll get a few more boys and girls down to see the game on Sunday. So yeah, please come along. So anyway, I think that is pretty much it. For us, before we, Pat, you've still got some audio to play us out, haven't you?
I've basically got the second part of the audio we made up for John Call, so we'll play it with that. It's the second part. And I said through Jim we've set up a Spreaker account, and we're going to put all the podcasts or all the tributes up there. So this will just be the second part of the one that was a bit earlier. There's a little bit of a recap on just a few seconds worth of what was on before, just as a reminder for people. But yeah, it's been a bit of fun. Jim sends his audio. We sort of mix some stuff in, and we think they're turning out not too bad. So hopefully you guys like it. We think it's pretty good fun, pretty interesting. So hopefully you do too. But, anyone in Melbourne as well, the Jockstein CSC will be showing the game Pint on Punt Windsor. So it's it's a JSCSC. So Jockstein JSCSC Melbourne. That's the Twitter handle. So get following us there, and we'll hopefully see you down at the pub on Sunday.
Good stuff, Pat. Josh, you any final words from your good self? Words of wisdom from Boris Downess?
No, not really anything this week. Just...
You've got it. Not anything. No Rabbie Burns nights. No Christmas early or anything like that. No parties coming up. Just nothing.
Nah, none going on in Boris Downess right now.
Okay, that's fine. Good on you, Josh. But listen, thanks again for joining us on the show. It's good to have you back, Josh, and hopefully you'll be around for the next one as well. Pat, as always, my old mucker, thanks to you again for pushing the buttons. Thanks to Jim Blythe from Celtic Graves that joined us on the show tonight as well. Also Krowski for calling in, and everybody that was tweeting in as well. There was quite a few. We had a few of the regulars. We had Jim Kinlan, we had Tony Cassidy, we had Richie Craig. Bam Bam, we had Craig. We actually had Miss Minsky's /Madam/VMAR tweeting in as well. So sorry we didn't get round to giving everybody a shout out, but thanks for your contributions as always, folks. We like to get the interaction going on the show as well, because it keeps us honest and keeps us going as well. So
don't forget as well that people can get all the other podcasts on the hailhailmedia.com website. So it's not just us, there's a whole truckload of them, as most people would know, but maybe some people don't. So just bear that one in mind. There's all different sorts there. So there's something for all tastes.
Good on you, Pat. So from myself and Pat and Josh, it's a goodbye and hail hail, and takes away, Pat.
Thanks, boys. Good night.
Cheers, guys.
So who was the man accompanying Charlie on the boat to the Big Apple? And what was the card all about? Little is known about the card sender Terry McKenna, but John Call, better known as Jack, was someone very well known to Celtic. In amongst the memorabilia purchased at auction, the Celtic supporter also found a letter signed by Willie Maley on official club-headed notepaper dated the 23rd of November 1922, in which he provided a reference in favour of a John McCall, who, during the last 5 years, has acted as trainer to the Parkhead Football Club. Parkhead, whose ground was just a short walk from Celtic Park across Springfield Road, were a leading light in Scottish junior football and had won the Junior Cup on 4 occasions. The Celtic manager confirmed that the Parkhead trainer had been a success at the local junior club and was responsible for their present high position in the junior world. Thanks to research by Colin Jose, a US sports historian, and Jim Friel, an expert on the history of the Garngad, much is now known about Jack Call and his background. Born in Downpatrick in Ireland and brought up in Springburn from the age of 8, he started as a football trainer in 1912 with Springburn White Rose before moving to Townhead, Benburn. It was while in charge of this Garngad-based team, named after a famous battle in Tyrone in 1646, that Jack Call struck up a friendship with a local family called McGrory. One of their children, James Edward, would of course go on to become a major figure in Celtic's history. In 1915, he was able to leave his job in the Clyde shipyards to take up a permanent coaching position with Parkhead. Jack Call also coached the Maryhill Harriers relay team and the Irish athletic team on occasions, as well as coaching leading boxers. It appears that Jack Call used the reference from one of the best known names in world football at the time to establish himself in the USA aged 29 as a player's agent as well as a coach. In the next couple of years, there were regular reports in the Scottish press that Jack Call was returned on holiday and was scouting for players. It was Jack Call who persuaded Willie McStay to leave Celtic in the summer of 1923, along with ex-Celts Willie Crilly and Johnny Patton, and head for the States. Although McStay resisted the lure of the £12 to £14 weekly salaries on offer and returned to the Maileys' charge. No doubt less than pleased at Jack Call's dealings, given the help he provided in setting him up. It is likely, though, that it was through Jack Call's connections that Charlie Shaw was approached to move to the United States. Terry McKenna's postcard appears to be confirmation to Jack that Charlie's services had been secured, and it would then be up to Jack to fix up a club for Charlie, as he'd done with many other Scottish players at that point. Jack was already well connected to the other side of the Atlantic, as he had coached a number of ASL teams, including New York Giants and Brooklyn Wanderers. And so it was, on September the 12th, 1925, that Charlie Shaw made his debut for the New Bedford Whalers. The story of Jack Call doesn't end there, though. His reputation as a coach continued to flourish until in 1930 he accompanied the USA team to the inaugural World Cup competition in Uruguay. The unfancied Americans caused an upset by beating both Belgium and Paraguay in their group to set up a semi-final against Argentina, to whom they lost 6-1. Much of the credit for the team's performance went to Jack Call's fitness regime. Until recently, this was the best performance of any USA team in a FIFA competition, and led to Jack Call being inducted into the US Soccer Hall of Fame in 1986. There was an incident during the World Cup semi-final which brought Jack Call to the wider public attention. He attended upon an injured player on the field, Andy Ault, who had a burst lip. Stories vary in terms of what happened next, but either Jack accidentally smashed a bottle of chloroform and was himself overcome by fumes and had to be carried off, or he was responsible for an Argentinian player knocking smelling salts out of his hand and into the eyes of an injured player. Interestingly, Andy Ault himself was a former Parkhead Juniors player and one of the stars of the 1930 World Cup. It is believed that Jack Call returned to Springburn in the 1960s, and and his fascinating life story is largely unknown in his homeland. Jack is buried with his wife Madge in St Kentigern Cemetery in Lamhill, Glasgow, alongside such Celtic greats as Tom Maley and Willie Loney. Charlie Shaw, of course, did not return to Scotland and saw out his days in his adoptive country. However, their paths did certainly cross one more time in 1931 when Willie Maley's Scottish Cup winners toured the United States and Canada. Jack Call was the club's official host during this 13-game tour, and Jim Friel has written that Call was in the forefront of the various dinners and ceilidhs where the Glasgow club was feted by the dignitaries of church and state. The wee lad from Downpatrick had come a long way. Charlie Shaw, who left Scotland in 1925, used the 1931 tour to catch up with some old friends and teammates when Celtic played in the East Coast. We would of course be none the wiser of Charlie's connections with Jack Call and the USA's 1930 World Cup story if it hadn't been for the curiosity of a Celtic fan and a postcard which just happened to catch his eye one day in November 2011.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway. I've been lost, I've been